Hi, everyone. We're Ascend Solutions Capstone team. This is our healthcare optimization presentation. Please allow us to reintroduce ourselves.
My name is Minna Fahmi. I hold a bachelor's degree from the American University in Cairo in business administration and a minor in economics. I also have completed a master's degree from Virginia Tech in material culture and public humanities.
I'm Ben Moralera. I completed my bachelor here at Virginia Tech in entrepreneurship, innovation, and technology.
I'm Ryan McMichael, and I was a business information technology major.
I'm Iman Bukhari. I completed my undergraduate studies in business administration with a major in marketing.
Hi, my name is Manasi Pachandala, and I completed my undergraduate studies here at Virginia Tech, where I majored in business information technology.
First and foremost, I want to thank Ascend Solutions for the opportunity to work with them, and as well Majed for making the drive up to listen to us today. I also want to thank Not sure where I went to forth. I also want to thank Jay Winkler, our CBA sponsor, as well as Dr. Streff, our faculty advisor. Moving on, I'm just going to go over a quick agenda of what to expect from us today. We're going to go over our problem statement, go into our problem context, solutions and analysis, and then finish off with our conclusions and recommendations. Moving on for our problem statement, we looked at how can connecting fragmented healthcare data to a unified data graph unlock real-time insights that improve patient outcomes, optimize operations, and support evidence-based decision-making. Now I'm going to pass on to Mena to go into our problem context.
Thank you, Ben. Before discussing our problem context and its impact, it's important to understand what Hajj is and to understand the complexity and the scale of Hajj. Hajj is an annual Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca that brings around 2 million worshippers. Large crowds, constant movement, and traffic flow increase disease transmission risks and place pressure on healthcare systems. Now that we understand what Hajj is and the risk of disease transmission, let us explore the main problems behind this project. The main economic motivation is to help healthcare organizations reduce operational risk and make more informative, proactive decisions. However, the first challenge is data fragmentation. When healthcare data is spread across different systems, this leads to delayed decisions, limited data visibility, and higher operational costs. The second concern is a surge in healthcare demand, which places pressure on staff and medical resources and results in overcrowding and increased emergency cases. The third issue is inefficient allocation, delays in the third issue is delays in allocation, where inefficient allocation of beds, staff, and medical supplies results in reduces capacity use, makes operations less efficient, and increases overall operational costs. These challenges make it difficult for healthcare systems to respond quickly and operate efficiently, and this is exactly where the value of our project comes in. Now I'll pass it off to Ryan to discuss why we chose a knowledge graph.
Thanks, Mena. When we began our project, we had one simple question in mind. Why a knowledge graph in the first place? To find our answer, we had to think about the healthcare industry itself. With information spread across many different systems, traditional data models can become quite rigid and difficult to scale over time. For instance, a relational database works well when information is fixed and highly structured. However, things can become more complicated when new data is introduced. A knowledge graph, on the other hand, is much more flexible. Instead of forcing data into rigid table structures, information can be represented through connected nodes and relationships. The image on the left shows our structure's foundation, a smaller, focused structure centered around core healthcare entities. As shown on the right, this structure can be scaled as new data is introduced. Ultimately, we selected a knowledge graph for its scalability and flexibility, as each new data source strengthens the graph and enables deeper insights. Now I'll pass it over to Aman to talk about our Power BI dashboard.
Thank you, Ryan. Now coming to the Power BI dashboard, it mainly focuses on the situational awareness and data fragmentation that can help identify key insights for better decision-making. The first visual shows the healthcare demand across the Hajj timeline. The demand gradually increases in mid-May due to the peak arrival and the Hajj ritual phases, and then gradually declines as the Hajj ritual phase ends. Lastly, the last visual summarizes the top 3 ICD categories, which refer to different disease groups. First being J00, the diseases of the respiratory system. Then we have R52 and R52.9, where patients report unspecified pain. This means that the disease burden is actually not evenly distributed across the Hajj timeline, and that can serve as a very crucial insight for healthcare decision-making. Now, I'll pass it over to Manasvi to talk about the economic analysis and the conclusions.
Thanks, Iman. To better understand the value of our solution, we also evaluated its potential economic impact. Even using conservative assumptions, we saw strong potential for cost savings by helping healthcare industries anticipate demand and plan more effectively. Now, moving on to our conclusions and recommendations. To wrap up, our analysis revealed 3 key findings. First, we identified significant demand surges during peak arrival and Hajj ritual phases, showing where healthcare resources are likely to experience the greatest amount of strain. Next, we found clear areas of facility pressure where certain healthcare industries consistently handled higher demand than others. Lastly, we identified peak operational hours, helping highlight when staffing and resources may be needed the most. Based on these findings, our first recommendation would be to expand the available data by incorporating variables such as staffing levels, facility capacity, and patient history. Next, our recommendation would be to build simulation capabilities that can evaluate scenarios such as staffing shortages, bed capacity constraints, and disease outbreaks before they occur. Lastly, our recommendation would be to use a platform to help support planning and decision-making by helping healthcare industries move from a reactive approach to a more proactive one. Together, these steps can help improve resource allocation, reduce operational risk, and strengthen healthcare planning during large-scale events like the Hajj. Now, passing it off to Ben to talk about our reflections.
Now, looking at the MSB reflections, the biggest value that we got from this program was working with our capstone sponsor, Ascend Solutions. We got to work with them on real-world challenges that helped connect class learning to industry practice while learning to present key insights to stakeholders. And our advice for Cohort 11 would be to embrace ambiguity. None of these capstone projects have clear answers, which is a big challenge, as well as communication is key. You should communicate with your sponsor, faculty members, and team members to ensure that it's smooth and clear sailing during the project, as well as build your relationships. These are key networking strategies for future endeavors, as well as lifelong friends that last forever. That's the end of our project, and the floor is open for questions.
Like working with an international client? Yeah, I can answer that. I would say, first off, very unique experience. Thank you to Majid for coming out and the rest of the team online. But in terms of challenges, it's very similar to the rest of the projects, but I would say the one key difference is having a 7-hour time difference. And so for that, we kind of had to work to prepare for our meetings because you're not necessarily going to be able to meet with them every week. You know, it's difficult scheduling these meetings. And so we learned to maximize our time with our client and understand that their time is important and, you know, really focus on what we're going to talk about in each meeting.
Yeah, and I would add to that, the key is just planning and prepare beforehand.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be presenting our entry code review and data governance plan for Carter Machinery. Our project focuses on helping Carter simplify, standardize, and sustain their entry code structure while they transition from CODA to Microsoft Dynamics 365. Before we dive into our project, I would like to briefly introduce our team. Our team consists of 4 members with diverse academic backgrounds, which helped us approach this project from multiple points of view.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Burkett. I graduated from Virginia Tech last year with a Bachelor's of Science in Hospitality and Tourism Management, and I'm currently pursuing opportunities in the Northern Virginia area.
My name is Carter Robinson. I graduated last year from Virginia Tech with a Bachelor's of Science in Economics, and after school, I'm working for Town Bank in Suffolk, Virginia as a lead associate.
Hi, I'm Hannah Deck. I graduated last year from Concord University with a Bachelor's of Science in Accounting and Management. And after graduation, I'll be moving to Raleigh, North Carolina to work for Millennium Print Group in the Leadership Development Program.
Hey, I'm Andrew Rosa. I graduated last year with a Bachelor's of Science in Management. And after graduation, I'll also be moving to Raleigh, North Carolina to do construction service management.
We'd also like to recognize the individuals who supported us throughout this year. Chris Sawyer and Katie Reed from Carter Machinery gave us valuable business context, technical insight, and feedback that helped shape our recommendations. We'd also like to thank Dr. Laura Consa and Jay Winkler for their academic guidance and continued support throughout this year. To give an overview of our presentation today, here's our agenda. First, we will discuss our problem statement. Next, we will walk you through our analysis process and the impact our project brings to Carter. And third, we'll provide a brief demonstration of our governance framework and our recommendations for Carter. And finally, we'll conclude with our key takeaways and the business impact our project brings. To start with the problem our team was asked to address, Carter Machinery is currently transitioning from their legacy CODA ERP system to Microsoft Dynamics 365. During this transition, inconsistencies and redundancies in the data have created many challenges related to data quality and reporting accuracy. To address this, we focused on 4 key steps. First, we did a comprehensive review of all the current entry codes. Next, we identified all the inactive and redundant entry codes that were no longer needed for consolidation. And third, we created a standardized structure that improved overall consistency and usability. And finally, we created a ready-to-use governance plan that helps support long-term data maintainability and operational efficiency. Now I'll pass it to Hannah for the analysis process.
Thanks, Carter. Next, I'll walk you all through the overall process we used for this project. We started with the data extraction and structuring phase, where we used the Snowflake database to write SQL codes to create lists of entry codes. We began by looking at the entry code and output combinations, which include the entry code and the specific bank, division, and store that each code ties to. We then analyzed the distinct entry codes to begin looking for opportunities there for consolidation. Next, we moved into the analysis and data quality phase, where we used Excel to perform quality checks and validate the Snowflake data pulls. We also conducted additional analysis within Snowflake to begin looking for opportunities of full entries that could be consolidated. And finally, we moved into development and governance. Using Power BI, we created a governance plan centered around a searchable dashboard to help with ongoing auditing and monitoring after the project is completed. Our goal was not to just clean up the current environment, but to create a sustainable process for maintaining data quality moving forward. When analyzing the distinct entry codes, we identified about 22% of that total as inactive, meaning they have not been used in the past 3 years. When looking at the entry code and output combinations, we found that about 38% of those were inactive based on that 3-year mark. And finally, we found a total of 16 potential full entry consolidation opportunities. Those represent the strongest candidates for further review. Now I'll pass over to Kelsey to walk us through the governance plan.
Thanks, Hannah. This is our governance solution built in Microsoft Power BI. The idea here was to give Carter Machinery a simple and direct way to locate any record in the dataset without having to scroll through thousands of rows manually. You can see at the top a search bar, where the user can input a portion of any record they are searching for. Right next to it, a button to execute that search. And off to the far right, you'll see a removal flag column. This column is the most critical part of our governance solution, as it will flag any row in the dataset due to being inactive over the past 3 years. To build on our governance solution, we offered Carter Machinery 2 recommendations. The first recommendation is our customer to purchasing flow trends. What we're recommending here is a comparison dashboard built around a Sankey diagram. The reason we're recommending a Sankey specifically is because it's the best way to view how customers are most directly connected to their specific purchasing outputs. Our second recommendation is our flag correlation analysis. We already know that various flags exist in the dataset, but what we want to recommend is a timeline view built into the dashboard so that Carter Machinery can see when flagged activity is occurring and whether it's tied to specific quarters or periods. Additionally, a heat map view so that Carter Machinery can see not only when the flags are occurring, but where they're most heavily concentrated and whether they're tied to specific stores or divisions. Next, I'll pass it over to Andrew to discuss our final thoughts.
Hey, Kelsey. When I think about this project, one of the first things that stands out is how much it challenges us to grow in several areas. Obviously, we developed a lot of technical skills through analytics, but what really made this program so impactful was learning to take those technical skills and use that to actually fix a problem and provide value to everyone we worked with. One of the biggest challenges that we overcame was learning that data by itself is not enough. You need to understand the depths of the business problem, ask the right questions, and then provide a story in a way that your clients understand and know what to do going forward. Throughout this year, whether it's through a class project or working with the business professionals, this program teaches you to become confident turning business information or turning information into insight. My advice to cohort 11 is to take full advantage of everything this program has to offer. Don't just mindlessly submit the assignments. Really hone in and focus on what each assignment is trying to teach you. The more you give into it, the more you're gonna get out of it. Thank you for your time, and we're happy to take any questions.
What was the feedback from the Cohort team?
We got great feedback from them and they really liked our Power BI dashboard. So it makes it easier for them to search up certain codes that they're looking for or want to get rid of.
To add on to that, they were very excited to go into the new ERP system with less clutter. They have much less to transfer at this point.
What was the most challenging hurdle you guys had to overcome during this project?
I would say the hardest part was definitely figuring out how to manage 30+ years of transactional data when they have thousands of transactions that happen every day. So it was definitely a hard process trying to figure out how to manage that because it's too much for any one of us to download on any one of our computers. So it took a lot of back and forth with our client to figure out the best opportunity there. And Snowflake worked out really well because we could just immediately go into the database and start writing our SQL code right in there.
To add to that, also learning what an entry code is was pretty difficult at the beginning too, and just understanding their data. So.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. We are the Virginia Tech MSBA-BA capstone team that has had the pleasure of working with HB over the past year. We are excited to present our final project, Advancing Sales Performance Through Data-Driven Intelligence. Before we begin, we'd like to start off with some quick introductions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aiden Call, and following graduation, I'll be searching for roles in the business analytics and operations space.
Hi, everyone. My name is Savannah Smith, and following graduation, I'll be working in Northern Virginia at CGI as a business analyst.
Hi, everyone. My name is Divya Salur, and after graduation, I'm going to be working at Guidehouse as a consultant for their AI and data sector.
Hi, everyone. I'm Philip DeHaven. I will be working in government contracting for Chugash Government Solutions in Chesapeake, Virginia.
And hi, I'm Emily Watkinson, and I am still exploring opportunities in business analytics and strategy.
Before we begin, we'd like to thank those who made this project possible. First, from our HP sponsors, Tom, Drew, Gabe, Deja, and Turner, as well as our CBA mentor, Jay Winkler, and our faculty advisor, Dr. Barbara Fraticelli. And now I'll pass it off to Divya to get us started with today's agenda.
Thank you, Phil. So now I'm going to provide some more information into what our presentation is going to look like today. And I'm going to start off by walking us through the agenda. First, we're going to go over a problem statement and our solution approach. Next, we're going to go over our methodology and our final deliverable, as well as the AI component of our solution. And lastly, to conclude our presentation, we're going to go over program comments. So now let's dive into the problem itself, where HP sales teams need a more unified and scalable way of accessing and interpreting their product ownership and attached data. So in practice, this means that sales reps can't really get a full picture into what their customers already own, what's being attached to, and where the gaps are, which leads us into our solution approach. This is where we built an ownership analytics framework supported by a red, yellow, green like target logic for account comparison. We also integrated an AI agent into our solution for accessibility and adoption. And finally, to conclude our project, we created a final report to highlight key next steps and implementation recommendations. And now I'm going to pass it off to Emily to talk about our methodology.
Thank you, Divya. As she mentioned, I'll go through the methodology behind the first deliverable of our project, the Power BI dashboard. These are the key components we use to turn historical sales data into guided selling insights, and it also became the framework behind our AI implementation. The first piece of the puzzle was the data. Back in the fall, we received historical sales data dating back to 2020, which included products, verticals, accounts, and top-line sales information. After analysis, we knew we needed a guiding logic that could adjust all the way down to the product level. That led us to create our weighted average target. This provides a realistic but also goal-oriented benchmark. From there, we layered in current sales numbers to run real-time performance comparisons, and then created an opportunity scoring mechanism using a simple red, yellow, and green signal derived from an exponential curve. Finally, we pieced all these components together into one strategic dashboard that aims to help users quickly identify white space opportunities. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Savannah to walk us through the red, yellow, and green scoring signal.
Thanks, Emily. As she mentioned, we created a red, yellow, green scoring framework so that when somebody looks at the dashboard, they can immediately understand performance without having to analyze every number. The goal is to be able to quickly identify the status of both overall accounts and individual products. Each product is assigned a score based on how its current top line compares to its target. If the score is green, that means it's on track. If it's yellow, that indicates a moderate gap, and if it's red, then that highlights a more significant issue. In order to determine whether a product should be categorized as red, yellow, or green, we first needed a clear way to define what level of deviation from the target is acceptable. A flat threshold wouldn't work because a 20% miss doesn't carry the same weight across all deal sizes. On a smaller deal, that might be manageable. However, on a larger deal, it could pose a huge financial risk. So instead, we used a dynamic model that adjusted acceptable deviation based on deal size. We anchored this model at 2 key points. For a $10,000 deal, we allow 25 to 30% deviation, and for a $1 million deal, we allow 5 to 10% deviation. From there, we connect these 2 points with an exponential curve, so any deal size can be compared to proportionally appropriate thresholds. Under the hood, these thresholds follow exponential decay functions. As deal size increases, the allowable deviation decreases, with the yellow line dropping off much more rapidly in order to create an early warning zone before performance becomes critical. Once we establish the allowed deviation from the curve, we can compare it to the actual deviation from the target. If the deviation is below the yellow line, then the product is categorized as green. If it's between the yellow and the red lines, then the product is categorized as yellow. And if it's above the red line, then the product is categorized as red. This strategy gives us a scalable and realistic way to evaluate performance while keeping the output simple for users. Now I'd like to pass it off to Aiden to talk a little bit more about the AI agent component of our project.
Of course. Thank you, Savannah. As she mentioned, I'll be covering the second half of our deliverable, the AI agent, and its development. Originally, our sole deliverable was the dashboard solution that Emily mentioned earlier. However, after a working meeting in Palo Alto and input from HP CCO, we opted to expand our scope and create something that would increase the usability for both sales reps and HP's business planning and strategy team. And so alongside their generative AI development team, we implemented an agentic AI solution that aims to assist sales reps across 6 core categories. And those are attach, account, product, deal and opportunity, and at the market level, external, and both internal. So the value for HP lies in its adoption. In modern day analytics, the main challenge usually isn't generating insights, but ensuring that they're used to influence critical decision-making. By adding a generative AI-powered conversation layer over the pre-existing dashboard, we make it significantly easier for sales reps to access and apply those insights. This in turn increases the frequency and consistency of its usage, ultimately driving pipeline impact. And importantly to note is that we added this AI layer as an assistant, not a replacement, so that when key decisions are made, they are made using transparent business metrics as well as human judgment. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Phil, who will brief you further on the economic analysis of our project.
Thank you, Aiden. We looked at potential return on investment by focusing on operational efficiency and revenue impact. First, with time saved, we projected a 1-year time savings and a 5-year time savings. Secondly, we analyzed revenue impact by improving attach rate. We provided a projection of a 1% attach rate revenue increase over a 1-year period and that of a 5% attach rate revenue increase over a 5-year period. Together, these benefits show that the project was not only operationally useful, but also financially justified because the potential revenue impact is over $1 million annually. Our findings address opportunities to improve attach rate. Our project will allow sales reps to proactively identify white space showcased via the dashboard. To maintain unity with other HP dashboards, the team's dashboard will be incorporated into HP's Power BI model. To accelerate findings and save time, the AI agent is incorporated to enhance sales execution. Together, this will better equip sales reps when assessing deal structure and overall customer relationship management. And now I'll pass it off to Aiden for key takeaways.
Thank you, Phil. So for our program takeaways, we believe that our team came up with the most impactful part being that what started as a hurdle in project scope expansion ended up, we didn't realize the impact that it would end up and for a integration across different global markets. And for our advice to cohort 11 is to focus on understanding the why and asking questions behind the data and analysis rather than just going through the motions and following technical steps. And so with that, we'd like to thank you for allowing us to present in front of you today and would love to open up the floor to any additional questions.
I have a question regarding scalability. Are there any plans to expand with the AI model?
Yeah, so our primary work was with the HP's Canada division. And following the pilot with that, HP intends to take that pilot and implement it across Europe, Latin America, and then US markets as well. Sweet. Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today for a public presentation on work completed during the 2025-2026 MSBA-BA season. Without further ado, I have the pleasure of introducing the Inorganic Ventures capstone team, starting with Mickey.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mickey Adaptis. As project monitor, I review task completion and ensure our team stay on schedule throughout the course of this project. I plan to stay in Northern Virginia and pursue full-time opportunities where I can apply my business analytics project and finance experience.
I'm Nick Caggiano. I was responsible for developing the software for our Market Basket deliverable, and I'll be moving to Northern Virginia to work for Capital Electric.
My name is Thomas Beasley. I oversaw all documentation and creation of meeting minutes this past year. In the coming months, I plan to transition to Virginia Beach, where I will begin a full-time opportunity with Dollar Tree stores in Chesapeake as a vendor performance management analyst.
I'm Malcolm McDonald, and I was the team lead for this project. Starting in August, I will be working as a sales representative for Vertisoft in Northern Virginia.
Before we dive into today's presentation, we would first love to give some special acknowledgements to our Inorganic Ventures clients, Jesse, Kelsey, and Madeline, as well as our MSBA advisors, Ms. Shannon Dillon and Dr. Owner Saref. We thank you very much for your guidance in the development of these highly innovative deliverables and for a wonderful capstone experience. Through our initial meetings with our capstone representatives, we identified an opportunity to make product recommendations more accurate and accessible for all employees, regardless of coding or technical background. Additionally, we identified the need for an increase in churn visibility, and these two factors became the foundation for our problem statement to execute on as the year progressed. Diving deeper, our approach started off with identifying a better calculation of the recommendation baskets in Python. We then built out a Power BI port of the finalized Python subprocess. From there, we pivoted and built out the churn visibility calculations and dashboards. This execution timeline allowed us ample time to test the results of these deliverables with our clients and make adjustments as needed, all while maintaining a desired end date of April 15. These tools allow the increased opportunity for salespersons to target key customers and make so that cross-selling and additional revenues can be captured where it counts. With that, I'll pass it off to my colleague Nick, who will discuss the market basket analysis deliverable.
Thank you, Thomas. Our first deliverable was to make a live, user-friendly market basket analysis tool. Over the course of the project, we developed two different tools that approach the same problem with different methods, a Power BI dashboard and a standalone application. To understand how market basket analysis works, imagine you're shopping at a grocery store and you put bread and cheese in your basket. Now, the store may next suggest that you put milk in the basket based off past consumer data. Market basket analysis works to uncover hidden relationships between items over large data sets. Knowing IV's familiarity with Power BI, we developed two different dashboards focusing on customer and product level analysis with a Python subprocess used to compute the recommendations on a monthly basis. While the Power BI dashboards allow non-technical stakeholders to access basic recommendations in a platform they're familiar with, key project constraints ultimately leave deeper analysis unachievable. To fully leverage the market basket model, we had to step outside of Power BI, and to do this, we created a standalone Python application. While the Python application requires more technical expertise to operate, ultimately allows salespeople to uncover hidden and more niche relationships between items. That's all for market basket analysis. I'll now pass it over to Malcolm, who will go over churn.
Thank you, Nick. With the conclusion of market basket analysis, the next requested deliverable involves creating a framework for estimating churn, the customers that permanently stop purchasing from inorganic ventures. To do so, first we had to label customers as either active or churned, to which we created a three-part rule system. The first rule looks at the average purchase interval of a customer, multiplies it by 1.5, and if more time has passed since their last purchase, this could suggest churn. To make the analysis conservative, we also look at the longest amount of time a customer has ever gone without a purchase, and if more than this amount of time has passed since their last purchase, this too could suggest churn. Lastly, we were told that a customer is most likely churned if 2 years have gone by without a purchase. For product level churn, which we also examined, the specific churning of a product for a given customer, this rule could be extended to 5 years due to the shelf life of the products. And from there, if all three rules state that a customer or product has churned, they are to be labeled as churn. With customers and products labeled, we were able to create 4 churn-related deliverables, all of which being live dashboards in Power BI. The first being a dashboard of churn customers, as well as key insight metrics into churn, such as revenue loss and estimated churn rate. Next, a product level churn dashboard where the user selects a customer and can see all of the churn products, as well as a dashboard of active customers based on their likelihood to churn, and a dashboard of actively purchased products for a selected customer based on the likelihood of those products churning. In terms of recommendations for these deliverables, first is recommended to use the market basket analysis application to make product recommendations to customers, with the customer analysis for general recommendations and the product analysis for add-ons to orders. Next, we suggest targeting outreach with the churn deliverables, focusing on customers who provide high average annual revenue, but are also at high risk or have recently churned. Finally, we suggest to monitor key metrics such as the market basket conversion rates and fluctuations in the churn rate to ensure that these initiatives are successful, with our primary recommendation being to embed these new analytical tools throughout the sales process at any relevant touch point to ensure that these opportunities for cross-selling and retention are met. I'll now pass on to Mickey for the economic analysis.
Thank you, Malcolm. Now that we've walked through deliverables and recommendations, let's take a second and shift to the economic impact of our project. To start, instead of one broad conversion assumption, we based our estimates on expected sales recommendation activity. And because these tools haven't been fully implemented yet, these numbers here should be understood as model values based on assumptions instead of actual post-implementation results. Through discussion with the IB coordinators, we estimate that the team currently makes about 10 recommendations per month at a 20% success rate. And with these new tools, we aim to increase the rate by 10% and make an additional 30 recommendations per month. This formula here derives value from 2 main areas. Part 1 being based upon assumptions from recently averaged data, and part 2 being based upon new assumed rates for recommendations and success. And using $2,000 per successful recommendation, these two values combined create a total monthly benefit of $20,000 or $240,000 a year. Thank you. And to close, let's talk about what we took away from this program. In terms of program takeaways, the most impactful experience for us by far has been the capstone project, which has given our team the hands-on experience to succeed in a client-facing role while also developing our confidence as emerging freshmen. And to our MSBA advisors and our inorganic ventures clients, thank you for the guidance, partnership, and support throughout this past year. We're very grateful for the lessons learned, the opportunity to work with you all, and wish you all the very best moving forward. Thank you. This concludes our presentation, and we'll open the floor to questions.
What lessons did you learn about running a business that you will find most helpful as you continue your careers?
I got this one. Okay. So from my personal experience working with other organizations and then inorganic ventures, I would say that aligning your business in this digital age to make data-driven solutions requires setting up your data infrastructure in such a way that it easily facilitates that. And I've been in organizations where it does not, it's like I'm fighting for my life here to make something that should be theoretically pretty easy, but the way it's been set up is not so efficient. But in our time with inorganic ventures, we had no problems with their digital infrastructure to create the tools that you guys have given us feedback saying you love them and you want to use them. So I would say as much as we are getting praise for these tools, part of it is for your guys' like forethought in making that data infrastructure, which I hear was built by Cohort 7 in MSBA.
What was the biggest challenge you guys faced as you were navigating this project?
Honestly, we didn't come across any major challenges. As Nick mentioned, the data warehouse is very well set up and our point of contacts were very great about their guidance. I guess one challenge was we couldn't validate our own market basket analysis recommendations because we're not chemists. So when we would create a version of the market basket analysis and see the results it would generate, we would have no clue if these results were any good or not. And for that, we did need chemist involvement to be able to make sure that the results made sense at all.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are the Medico team, and today we'll be presenting the results of our capstone engagement. Through this project, we focused on improving the overall scheduling efficiency at Medico. Before we begin, I'd like to start off with some quick team introduction. Yep, okay, we're good. One before that. All right. My name is Moni Serpanetti. I graduated from Virginia Tech with my undergraduate degree in BIT, with concentration in cybersecurity management and analytics. Following graduation, I will be joining Datadog as an account strategist in their Boston office.
Hello, my name is Tessa Hunt, and I also graduated from Virginia Tech during my undergrad with a triple management degree in business administration, entrepreneurship, and consulting analytics. I'm currently interning at CACI as a business development intern and in process of full-time employment.
Hi, my name is Ritika Venkatesh, and I also received my undergraduate degree from Virginia Tech in BIT with a concentration in decision support systems. Following graduation, I'll be working as an analyst for Alpine Consulting Partners.
My name is Nicholas Culliver, and I received my undergrad from Virginia Tech in BIT with a concentration in operations and supply chain management, and I'm still in the process of finding full-time employment.
Hello, my name is Joshua Bay. I've also received my undergraduate degree from Virginia Tech and BIT with a concentration in cybersecurity management and analytics. Following graduation, I'll be joining Cloud Construction Group as an engineer.
We would also like to take this time to extend our gratitude to our project sponsor, Mr. Joey Banks, as well as our faculty advisor, Dr. Andy Arnett, for their continued guidance and support throughout this engagement. We also would like to thank our CBA leaders, Sean Rains and Jennifer Riley, for their mentorship throughout the duration of this project. Over the course of this engagement, we had the opportunity to sit with the Medico scheduling team, observe their process firsthand, and truly get an understanding of what order intake looks like in practice. We watched the schedulers work through hundreds of order lines, coordinating across different departments, making real-time decisions about lead times and promise dates that directly impact the Medico customer base. What became clear was that as order volume grows, there was a compelling opportunity to strengthen the foundation on which a scheduling function had been built. That opportunity is reflected in our key problem statement. How can the order intake stage of the scheduling process be improved to increase operational efficiency? With that in mind, I will now pass it off to Tessa, who will move into data collection and key analysis.
Thank you, Moni. Over the course of this project, we spent a lot of time on data collection to ensure we were understanding the entirety of the scheduling process. With all the time and flexibility Medico is able to offer, we visited the facility on multiple occasions. We had the opportunity to interview schedulers and key members of influence on the project, gaining us insight into how scheduling worked, as well as a couple of external factors that influenced the outcome of it. The main constraint of the project was that JDE, the ERP system scheduling is completed in, is owned by their parent company. This meant we could not access or change anything within the system itself. To move around this constraint, we were able to shadow the schedulers and watch them work within JDE, noting every step that they had to take along the way. Within JDE, they have a workbench, which includes all pending orders waiting to be scheduled to the facility. It also includes load reports, which separates these orders out into their manufacturing segments to reduce the order quantity that each scheduler has to look at themselves. The scheduler's job is largely manual, where they spend most of their day data dumping this information out of JDE and into Excel cheat sheets in order to do manual calculations. With all of this valuable information we collected, we were able to produce a workflow analysis that highlighted key bottleneck areas within the process. I'll now pass off to Ritika to discuss our solution we developed from this workflow.
Thanks, Tessa. Taking this analysis and the JDE limitations Tessa mentioned into account, our team decided to focus on automating the most repetitive calculations in the scheduling workflow. This included making a standardized Excel toolkit. Starting off, schedulers simply data dump JDE load report data into the toolkit. These reports contain information on component quantities for orders scheduled in the week ahead. The toolkit then aggregates these components into specified categories and maps them to the appropriate production week, accounting for any documented scheduling exceptions. From there, using this data, as well as the capacity limits, which are manually input by the schedulers, the file flags weeks where load exceeds maximum capacity, enabling the toolkit to automatically calculate lead times and their corresponding schedule dates based on the next available production week. The information from each department's scheduling workbook pertaining to these lead times is then funneled into a central summary file, which also contains high-level metrics on incoming order data. Lastly, schedulers use the information in this file to schedule incoming orders within JDE, and these informations are then included in the next load report cycle. Ultimately, this toolkit reduces a multi-step process to the click of a refresh button. And by platforming it exclusively in Excel, we're able to use a tool that Medico's team is already familiar with, which is also able to build clean historical data over time. I'll now hand it over to Josh to discuss the impact of this toolkit.
Thank you, Ritika. From an orders processing standpoint, there was a 25% reduction in order processing rate. And there was also a 15% improvement in multi-line orders than compared to before. Another benefit here is that the toolkit is used by the schedulers daily. From the time that it saves, they're able to focus on actual scheduling work and focus on forward communication instead of supporting the process manually. By simplifying and organizing the most repetitive parts of the workflow, the toolkit is able to make the process much easier to manage and more efficient overall. Now I want to quickly summarize the economic impacts of our project. The main value from the tool, it comes from the time it creates and the additional scheduling capacity it adds. The scheduling team's fully loaded burn rate is around $27 an hour. The team also reported a recovery of 20 hours per week in total recovered labor value. This equals to $28,080 per year in annual labor savings. With the increased visibility and efficiency from the toolkit, the scheduling team was also able to absorb the backload without backfilling a part-time scheduler role, which also adds another value of $11,232 per year. So in total, it is estimated around $39,312 in total annual labor savings. Now that I've gone over the economic impact and the operational impact of our project, I want to hand it off to Nick to go over the final recommendations and final thoughts of our project.
Thank you, Josh. Building upon our solution, recommendations moving forward would be to explore external factors for additional automation, as well as using the historical data collected through this toolkit to provide a foundation for a future predictive scheduling tool. There also exists some future opportunities in tracking machine downtime and forecasting capacity. These tools can then be used to help predict future constraints before they can happen. Ultimately, pursuing any one of these recommendations would provide increased value for Medico. And before we close out, we wanted to highlight our experience with the Capstone project. One of the most valuable lessons we learned was learning how to navigate ambiguous problem spaces. Unlike many class assignments where the problem and the requirements are clearly defined, we were given a broad challenge and had to determine what opportunity was of greater importance and value. Overall, this experience taught us how to work through uncertainty, know how to ask the right questions, and learn how to develop a practical solution even when the path forward was not immediately clear. The lessons we learned from navigating this ambiguity will continue to serve us well as we transition into our professional careers. Thank you all for listening, and we'll now open the floor for any questions.
Hi, I had a question about scalability. How did you ensure that this project remains scalable for the future instead of a single, stagnant solution?
That's a great question. Again, our solution builds upon the existing Excel toolkits that was provided to us from our main sponsor, Mr. Joey Banks. And with those toolkits, we've allowed them to become more dynamic, allowing for less manual effort and changes, potentially causing errors, manual errors, clerical errors. But with the VBA that we've added to those toolkits, it will automatically upload the data and continue to do so up to 200,000 rows before the processing of the VBA begins to bog down. Additionally, any new additions can easily be made given our manual and technical toolkits that we've provided for them as well. And as the new year approaches, they can create a copy of that template toolkit file and prep it for the next year.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. We're very excited to share the work we've completed alongside NASA, focusing on enterprise-wide AI tool adoption. Without further ado, we're going to introduce ourselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashlyn Turner. I completed my dual degree in marketing management and MSBA at Virginia Tech. And in postgrad, I will be continuing my education for my MSc and my doctorate at the University of Oxford, also in history.
My name is Britton Peacock. I graduated with a bachelor's in computer science. Post-grad, I will be a Gen AI developer for TCS in New York City.
My name is Michelle Tran. During undergrad, I studied cybersecurity management and analytics here at Virginia Tech. And postgrad, I will be an engineer at Clark Construction.
Hi, my name is Maeve Marley. I have an undergraduate and a graduate degree in philosophy, and postgrad I'll be working as a data scientist here at Virginia Tech.
Hi, my name is Sanika Sofani. I have an undergraduate degree in cybersecurity management and analytics here from Virginia Tech. And postgrad, I will be a product manager at QTS Data Centers.
And before we begin, we'd like to give a huge shout out to our sponsors and faculty advisors. Sarah Moffat and Steve Fair have given us critical insight on organizational change management, AI strategy, and adoption metrics. Dr. Michael Flores has given us perspectives in both a strategic and academic sense. And also a huge shout out to Sean Rains and Jennifer Riley for all their support throughout the process. And now I'll hand off to Ashlyn to go over the agenda.
Thank you, Braden. To begin our presentation, we will define our problem, scope, and objectives. We will then look at our research and findings, our stakeholder insights, and our personas. Finally, we will lead a demonstration of our OCM AI agent and our recommended next steps. NASA is under federal mandate to adopt AI agency-wide, but the workforce is split. Some people are very excited, others are skeptical, and some are nervous because they're still unsure of what is and isn't allowed. This makes our core question very straightforward. How do we create a strategic change management plan that is structured enough to provide the agency with guidance while remaining rigid enough to meet the needs of each NASA stakeholder? That's what we hope to answer for you today. The technical pattern is a very simple one. We see a wide boom of interest upon launch, followed by gradual decline as time goes on. Additionally, we also see that interest and activity are focused in Copilot Chat, which is a general assistant tool instead of the actual embedded workflows. This shows us that the knowledge is there, and to an extent the interest is there, but long-term behavior has yet to change. From an economic standpoint, OCM functions as a bridge between investment and recognized mission value, which is especially important for an organization such as NASA, which uses mission-centered metrics such as time saved and reworks needed instead of the traditional ROI. AI has the potential to hit on all of these motivators, creating a more efficient and more communicative workplace. Now I will pass it off to Braden to tell us about the problem statement.
Thank you, Ashlyn. So at the start of our project, we came to a huge realization. The problem isn't whether NASA has access to AI capabilities. They do have access to tools like Copilot and internal tools like ChatGSFC. The real challenge is whether the workforce is equipped with the right skills, governance clarity, and organizational support needed to really actually adopt these tools in a responsible, consistent manner at scale. This became the focal point for our entire project moving forward. To tackle this challenge, we focused on two key aspects: the organizational and behavioral parts. First, we analyzed Copilot usage data, the most mature data set available to us, in order to learn more about adoption patterns, engagement trends, and behavioral signals across centers. Next, we conducted stakeholder interviews and listening sessions across both centers and leadership groups. Third, we synthesized both the data and the interviews into workforce personas to answer more questions like the differences in trust, readiness, adoption behavior, and communication needs. This combination allowed us to understand not just what is happening, but why it is happening. And now we'll get into two of the dashboards we created based on the Copilot data. Before we dive into this first dashboard, it's important to understand the context behind it. This was NASA's first major enterprise-wide AI tool adoption campaign. It was originally supposed to be launched within early 2025, but due to the government shutdown and multiple delays, it ultimately was rolled out just 2 weeks before the holiday season. This dashboard shows how NASA employees were initially engaging with Copilot within the first 2 or 3 weeks. And now I'll pass it off to Michelle to talk about the second dashboard.
Thank you, Brayden. Now I'm going to take us through our second Copilot dashboard that focuses on long-term adoption beyond just launch metrics. Starting with the graph on the left, we can see that all the centers share a similar pattern, a strong initial spike followed by a decline and a slight recovery. Usage by Microsoft 365 applications show that majority of the interactions are concentrated in Copilot rather than Microsoft applications such as Outlook, Word, and Teams. And finally, the trends over time graph reinforce the same broader pattern, a strong initial spike followed by a decline and a slight recovery, which highlights the gap between initial adoption and sustained usage. Taken together, we have three key data takeaways that should guide NASA for future AI initiatives. First, adoption is uneven across the center. Although initial interest is high, engagement still varies based on factors such as workforce readiness, mission needs, and organizational context. Second, usage is not consistently embedded into work. Although employees are consistently trying to explore AI capabilities, usage is still dominated in chat-based interactions rather than embedded into Microsoft applications. And finally, our analysis highlights the importance of trust, ethics, and sustained engagement. Throughout our stakeholder interviews and data analysis, employees consistently emphasize the need for trust, clear governance, and confidence that approved AI tools can support mission objectives responsibly. And I'm going to pass it off to Maeve to talk about our workforce insight.
Thanks, Michelle. So as Brayden mentioned, we conducted a number of workforce interviews throughout the course of this project to better understand the signs and the signals that was presented in the data. Over the course of these interviews, we really helped better understand the gap between folks who are using AI tools here and there throughout the day versus those who had really integrated into their work and transformed their workflows. A major theme that emerged during these interviews was trust. Specifically, employees need to trust that the tools that they're being asked to adopt are going to meaningfully support their work. And finally, it was clear to us that NASA employees really need to understand the why behind the change they're being asked to engage in order to be motivated to adopt and engage in that change. And more specifically, this why needs to be aligned with NASA's mission and the individual missions that folks are working on across NASA. Over the course of these interviews, the need for organizational change management became very clear. As we all know, new AI tools are coming out what feels like every hour of every day. In order for NASA to be flexible and adopt these new tools, they need a repeatable and structured process. Further, this process needs to have clear goals, where adoption is defined by sustained and integrated use rather than mere activation. And finally, this process needs to be organized and target different sectors of the workforce so that the tools being pushed out to them can be communicated to them in the appropriate way, given the kinds of work they're doing and the ways in which those tools are applicable to their work. So now I'll pass it off to Sunitha to talk about how our agent assists with this process.
Thank you, Maeve. So like Maeve was saying, our goal wasn't just to create an organizational change management strategy, but it was to find a way to actually operationalize that across the enterprise. So with that, we came up with the concept of an OCM AI agent. This agent's purpose is to reduce fragmentation across the enterprise when it comes to different AI initiatives being rolled out almost every day now. And it helps leadership tailor communication plans and rollout strategies for these specific AI initiatives. This AI agent has been grounded by project artifacts that we created as a team, such as the persona library, the organizational change management case for change, as well as a data framework table and a metrics framework that was given to us by NASA. And with that, we had three major key takeaways from this project. One, activation does not include adoption. Simply giving employees and the enterprise an abundance and access to different AI tools doesn't create successful AI adoption. AI adoption comes from employees feeling confident, trusted, and supported in the tools that they're being given. And two, data needs human context. This is one of the biggest key takeaways that we had and advice that we have for Cohort 11 is that usage analytics only tell you one part of the story. It's important to sit down with the employees, understand their perspectives and their needs from that data that we're being given. And three, change needs human context. Change is fundamentally human, same thing. Organizational change management is the bridge between technology and successful AI adoption. Our goal wasn't just to push AI at NASA, that's already happening, very smart people there, but it was to create a more measurable and informed strategy at the enterprise that could be used for future AI rollouts. And with that, I'd like to thank you guys for listening to our presentation, and we'll be taking any further questions.
And how do you hope that NASA will use your delivery?
That's a great question. So we really focused on building out the grounding documentation instead of technically building out the agent so that NASA can kind of input the grounding documentation in any AI tooling system that they would like. They could also attach it to an MCP layer to connect to internal or external tools so that they could either understand the different licenses that they have out there, the data that's coming in from all these AI tools for more financial metrics, or they could use it in a more technical aspect to help tailor different use cases for the employees based on their specific mission needs. Yeah. Any other questions?
No, Steve gave you a good round of applause.
Thank you, Steve.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. We're excited to present our work on predictive estimated time of arrival modeling for merchandise rail cars developed in collaboration with Norfolk Southern. Before we begin, we'd like to get into some team introductions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kai Quackenbush. I graduated with a degree in business information technology, and I'm looking for job opportunities in data analytics and consulting.
I'm Mr. Park. I have an undergrad degree in cybersecurity management and analytics, and I'm also still exploring full-time opportunities in business.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathleen Lay. I'm the team lead for our project, and I did my undergraduate degree here at Virginia Tech in business information technology. And after this program, I will be working as a technical government consultant for Capgemini in the DC area.
Hi, I'm Erin Kelleher. I did my undergrad degree in marketing management, and after graduation, I'll be working with Booz Allen as a government consultant.
Hi, I'm Anna Pitts. I graduated with my degree in public relations, and I'll be joining Axtria in their Boston office to work as a consultant.
Before we begin, we'd like to thank the CBA team for all of their support throughout our entire project, as well as our sponsors, Woody and Beth, as well as our executive champ, Megan, and our faculty advisor, Dr. Andy Ernett. Last November, we had the opportunity to tour headquarters, visit various rail yards, as well as explore the training center. This gave us hands-on experience to connect our data to real-world operations. Moving into our problem statement, today, ETA predictions rely heavily on scheduled trip times, which don't always reflect what's happening across the network. And as a result, accuracy varies, making it harder to plan operations and provide reliable updates for Norfolk Southern customers. To start our project, we worked with over 43 million rows of data from 6 different data sources, including lane and network level metrics. We consolidated all of the information into a singular database so that we were better able to capture these data patterns. Now I'll pass it over to Erin to talk about our initial model.
Thank you, Kathleen. To start, we kept our scope small, just focusing on one machine learning model. And originally, we didn't think that that was going to be the best approach, just since it's not going to capture lane level variability. So we decided to change and start adding additional machine learning models to help better capture these variabilities and the overall performance. This now leads us into our final process for our model. This process acts as a cycle. To start, it selects a singular lane, and then it will create and prepare key features. Some of these key features include a training and validation split of the data and a rolling average of our network metrics along with its original network metrics. After it's created and prepared all of these key features, the model will then be tested on 2 different data sources, which are the rolling average metrics and the raw data metrics. These 2 data sources will then be evaluated on a median baseline and 4 different machine learning models. This will result into 10 possible outcomes per lane. The model will then select the outcome combination that has the best performance metrics to then generate predictions that will be recorded back into the SQL database. It will start back over with a new lane, and now I'll pass it off to Esther to go over the results of our model. Thank you, Erin. This visualization compares prediction and schedule error across the top 5 highest volume lanes. For data privacy reasons, we have anonymized the lane names. Looking at the chart, the blue bars represent scheduled ETA error, which is how far off the schedule was from the actual number of trip days, while the orange bars represent prediction error. Notably, from city A to B, where schedule error is around 3 days, the model reduces the error to under half a day. However, it's also important for us to be transparent. From city G to H, the model does not show significant improvement over the scheduled estimate. This shows that there's still opportunity for a model to improve to produce consistent improvements across all the lanes. Overall, this demonstrates that the model scales effectively, even to lanes with a high number of trips,
delivering more reliable ETAs where it matters most. Finally, this visualization shows performance improvement before and after implementing a model across different time thresholds. At every threshold, we can see an increase in performance. On average, the model improves ETA accuracy by 50 percentage points, with the strongest gains at the on-time or early and maximum 24 hours late threshold. At this level, we can see performance increase from 67 to 82%, showing that the model is steadily shifting predictions closer to actual arrival times. These will show that the model is meaningfully improving ETA reliability, helping deliver more consistent and on-time arrivals. Now I'll pass it off to Anna to discuss our solution methods.
Thank you, Esther. So based on those results, this slide breaks down how our solution is structured. Starting with the what. We modeled ETAs at the individual lane level, tested multiple prediction methods per lane, and selected the best performing one. The so what is why this design matters. Our approach avoids forcing one method across lanes that behave very differently. The now what is about implementation. Our process is automated, so as data quality improves, our model can be updated without being redesigned. Now I'll move into what this means in terms of economic impact. So to begin, we created a return on investment framework reflecting our analysis. The initial investment is $35,000 with a payback period of less than 1 year. In terms of direct benefits, we calculated an estimated $12.4 million in annual benefit. This is based on 4 key drivers: 500,000 shipments a year, a 15% improvement in on-time performance, an average revenue of about $3,300 per car, and a 5% revenue impact factor. This is what gave us our estimated $12.4 million in annual benefit. In terms of indirect benefits, this will create fewer customer inquiries, lower service-related costs, and a better use of railcars and network capacity. This will lead to better customer trust and retention for Norfolk Southern. Now I'll pass it off to Kai to go over our recommendations.
Thank you, Anna. So based on our analysis, we have 4 main recommendations. Our first recommendation is to improve the accuracy of route-specific data to better capture the key drivers of delays. Our second recommendation is to address the gaps in data quality. Improving completeness will allow our model to cover more lanes while enhancing performance on existing lanes. Our third recommendation is to add a feature importance matrix to see which variables matter the most for each lane. This makes our model process easier to explain and more transparent. Our final recommendation is to expand to other traffic types more carefully. Start by researching similar use cases, validate the performance of each use case, and then scale it more broadly. One piece of advice we'd like to share with the next cohort is that strong teams trust one another and play to each other's strengths, which is a valuable lesson that will continue to benefit you throughout your professional careers. To close, our team was able to combine our strengths together to deliver a solution that improves ETA accuracy for both Norfolk Southern and their customers. Thank you all so much for listening, and we're happy to take any questions.
Do you think if you all had more time to work on the project, what would the first thing that you would improve be?
I would say one of the recommendations that Kai mentioned was adding a feature importance matrix. That was something that we tried to finish like at the end of our like project, but we ran out of time to complete it. But just understanding what the key drivers of ETA would be very important to add.
Let's have one of the most impressive ROIs of all the capstone projects. How do you plan to see that to do with Norfolk Southern in the future?
In our presentation, I think a big part that we mentioned was not putting one solution for all of the lanes, especially because our data was for merchandise data and there's so many other sectors that it could be expanded to. So the 12.45 may seem like a big number, but the railroad industry for Norfolk Southern alone is over $1 billion, and their merchandise sector is about 63% of that. So we kept it conservative at 5% revenue. And when looking to expand, we think that could be something greater.
How do you guys do the project, right? Especially in handling missing data, or you guys don't have like a direction, a clear direction for Norfolk Southern?
I think a big part of handling is being able to narrow our scope and being able to be open with our sponsor. I think when we're confused, we should always be open to ask questions to get those clear answers, and that was something that our sponsor was able to provide for us. Looking at it as a whole is very overwhelming at first, thinking this is something that they've been trying to solve for over 10 years. And being able to narrow it down to starting with just 3 lanes and making sure that that will work was able to help us be able to use it for all the lanes and handle.
Just to quickly piggyback, like, we had tremendous sponsors and there was a lot of data to clean at the start of our project, which has, having that assurance with our sponsors gave us more confidence to complete and solve and deliver an awesome solution for Norfolk Southern.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback, like emphasize, sorry, third piggyback. But there was something like at the beginning of our project, we were afraid to ask our sponsors questions because we were like, oh, I don't know, should we already know this? But don't be afraid to ask those questions. They're very important and they're happy to help.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. We're the Next Stratus Virginia Tech MSBA capstone team, and today we'll be presenting our T-72 hospital operating room supply chain smoke detector. Before we get into the project, we want to take a second to introduce our team.
Hi everyone, my name is Kate Chittenden, and after the program, I'll be working at Epic as a project manager.
Hey everyone, I'm Nolan Crumley, and following the program, I'll also be working at Epic as a quality manager.
Hi everyone, I'm Austin Att. Following the program, I'll be working as a systems and automations engineer at Jet Excellence.
Hello, I'm Griffin Boziak, and following the MSBA program, I'll be working with Alan Myers as a purchasing analyst.
And I'm Sean Sweeney. Following the program, I'll be working at Dell Tech as a technology consultant.
We also wanted to take the time to acknowledge our project stakeholders. Thank you to Grant Cayley, David Nason, Jay Winkler, Dr. James Lederman, and John Gassler for helping us create a product that we think will fit perfectly into the Next Stratus ecosystem. Now moving on to our project overview. The context of this project is simple. Today, supply and case readiness issues in hospitals are discovered too late. This results in avoidable delays and revenue leakage. This then brings us to our key question. What warning indicators would help us identify these supply chain constraints early enough to help prevent these delays, maintain case flow, and avoid lost surgical revenue? The solution to this problem is our 72-hour forecasting. The 72-hour forecasting will help hospital staff triage 72 hours in advance of active case flow risks. This then brings us to our problem statement. The problem statement of this project is that hospitals lack real-time visibility into operational risk. These risks can lead to delays, inefficiencies, and increased costs. The scattered signals that hospitals currently receive will be implemented and input into our risk indicator. This risk indicator will give a hospital staff 72-hour advance notice to triage on case flow risks. I'll now pass it off to Nolan for our project objectives.
Thank you, Austin. We decided to break down our project objectives into 4 sequential steps. Up first was building our model, which entailed the development, training, and validation of it. We followed this by looking at our model's output to see if we could capture any meaningful trends, information, or business value. Following this, we developed a dashboard that has our model's features and insights for the end user. And finally, it was the integration stage, which was ensuring that our model and dashboard can integrate into Next Stratus' future ecosystem. Before building our model, we had to ensure our data accurately represented hospital data found in the world today. We started out with a synthetic data set, but quickly realized it was too predictable and failed to capture the complexities seen in the hospital settings today. As a result, we turned to start synthesizing our own data, this time including a few more random variables such as supply chain disruptions and weather delays. With these new tools in our hand, we were able to train, validate, and optimize our model to a point that we felt comfortable and confident in how it functioned. In terms of our model, we chose an XG-boosted tree model, as it was the most effective at correctly flagging critical and non-critical cases. Up next is a brief look at our dashboard. The current screenshot on the slide is the landing page for the end user when they launch our dashboard. At the very top, you can see a ribbon to highlight some key insights, as well as a few sentences to provide context and clarity for these values. At the very bottom, you can see a risk mix graph, which breaks the cases down into different risk groups that the end user can easily visualize. The next tab of our dashboard is the risk predictions tab. This allows the end user to dive deeper into the case risk breakdown for that day. Again, we have a ribbon at the top to highlight some key insights, as well as another risk graph, this time by numerical value instead of by grouping. At the very bottom, you can see 2 graphs that highlight case risk levels based off of specialty, allowing the end user to have more visibility for that day. I'm now going to hand it over to Griffin to touch on some more of our model's features.
Thank you, Nolan. The AI compatibility tab of the dashboard is unique in that it is not something that will be included in a product package for Next Stratus customers. Rather, Next Stratus will use this to test that the dashboard, model, and outputs are compatible with and have the potential to be integrated with a downstream AI or other software tool. the AI compatibility tab functions by running a tool sanity check to test for this compatibility. Moving into the feature importance tab. This provides a very high-level overview summarizing the most important features across all case risk predictions. Since features are aggregated at the population level here, it provides unique insights that will serve managers to make better decisions and improve operating room performance. The final component of the dashboard is the model performance tab. Here, key metrics such as AUC and F1 score, alongside artifacts like the confusion matrices, serve as concrete pieces of evidence supporting that our dashboard and model can hold up and perform well in a highly variable operating room environment. Another common use case of the model performance tab is the ability to dive deeper into specific case risk predictions. For instance, if an end user wanted to explore a case, they could deeper understand why the model predicted the way it did, enabling better understanding of the model's predictive capacity over time. And I'll now hand things over to Kate to further discuss our proposed solution.
Thanks, Griffin. The goal of our solution is to identify supply readiness risks before they can turn into delays or disruptions. Our system contains 4 core components. First is the predictive model, which forecasts potential supply constraints. Second is the case flagging and risk scoring, which allows staff to prioritize high-risk cases early on. Third is the insightful dashboard, and fourth is the AI layer, which together allow users to visualize and interact with the data. From an end user perspective, there are also 4 key areas. It allows for early constraint visibility, enables faster triage, reduces the need for any manual monitoring, and lays the foundation for future integration into Nextstratus products. Ultimately, our solution can help hospitals move from a reactive approach to managing their supply chain to a more proactive approach to managing it. Moving on to our value generated, we calculated our net project value of $80,300 by taking the value for our labor hours saved and subtracting our costs. We then used these values to calculate our project payback period, which means our project was able to recover its investment in just 2.3 weeks. Beyond that monetary value, we also found 3 key areas of strategic value. First, it allows staff to reinvest their time into higher value activities. Second, it strengthens Nextstratus's product portfolio by creating a scalable framework for future offerings. And finally, as real operating room data becomes available, the system will continue to improve itself. So while our monetary measurable value was a positive outcome, our long-term strategic value was an even greater outcome overall. Now I'll hand it to Sean to talk about our key takeaways and recommendations.
Thank you, Kate. Now moving into our core conclusions, T-72 supply chain smoke detector has delivered clear measurable value across several dimensions. First off, our XG boosted model achieved an AUC of around 0.8, proving a strong statistical leverage when deciphering between high and low risk cases. This allows our dashboard to accurately display cases based off risk. Following this, our dashboard structure supports chronological case triage. Next, our project yielded a positive ROI with intangible benefits. And lastly, it is important to note that although this model is highly effective, it is a prototype built off synthetic data and not yet fully production ready. We've also provided Nextstratus with 5 key strategic recommendations. First is to continue testing our model in a pilot environment. Next is to continue with model refinement and threshold optimization. Third is to continue with feature engineering and data audits. Fourth is to implement a hybrid operational layer that allows the underlying AI to communicate with hospital staff in order to make better decisions. And lastly is to undergo long-term blast radius development. Now I'll pass it back to Nolan to start going over some of our program takeaways.
Working with Nextstratus allowed us to tackle a problem that had meaningful impact in the real world. This allowed us to gain intangible skills that we can take into the business world following this program.
We also appreciated the ability to work in collaborative environments, both within our capstone team and with Nextstratus as our client. This taught us vital soft skills that each of us will carry into our career.
And lastly, it was very important for us to let the questions do the heavy lifting. Coming into this, we didn't know much about machine learning or operational rooms. So doing that allowed us to gain a lot of knowledge from Nextstratus. Now we'd like to just thank Nextstratus as well as the CBA at Virginia Tech for giving us the opportunity to work on this project. We'd like to open the floor to any questions you may have.
So within the hospital, who do you think your end user would be for this dashboard?
When we were creating our dashboard, we originally had 2 end users in mind, which ended up being supply chain manager as well as a procurement team lead. Our product pertains to consumables consumed within the surgeries, so supply chain was very important for us. But the main point of contact are the procurement teams. So those are the people going actually picking out the inventory, putting them on the cart for the surgery beforehand. So that our dashboard is to help those teams visualize where the inventory is and see if there is inventory.
Everybody's attention, the time to start here. Thank you, thank you. Okay, we're gonna turn it over now to Pamplin Executive Education.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We're the Pamplin's Executive Education Capstone team. My name is Kadeen Brown. You may also hear my colleagues refer to me as Kay. I obtained my bachelor's in psychology with a minor in property management, and following the MSBA-BA program, I'm open to employment as a consultant or within the field of data analytics.
My name is Ashley Cox. I have a background in music and medical administration. A few years ago, I decided to transition to academic administration, leading to a position here at Virginia Tech. As a lifelong learner, I decided to pursue the MSBA-BA program for further education as I work towards career growth.
I'm Nina Flynn. I got my Bachelor's of Science in Business Information Technology with a concentration in decision support systems. Following the MSBA-BA program, I'll be joining KPMG as a Federal Advisory Associate.
Hello, my name is Sarah Reed. I have a bachelor's degree in molecular biology from UC Berkeley. I began my career in education as a middle school science teacher and pursued the MSBA-BA degree to facilitate a career pivot. I'm looking forward to one day returning to the field of education, but this time in an operations or finance focused role. Now, please turn your attention to my colleague Ashley, who will introduce our key stakeholders.
Thank you, Sarah. So we'd like to thank our key stakeholders, starting with our sponsors, Jennifer Riley and Dr. Shane Wong, our faculty advisor, Dr. Kevin Carlson, and our CBA advisor, Jay Winkler. So moving on to our agenda, today we will share our key question, our recommendation, our approach, the frameworks that we developed, and then we'll go into a call to action as well as conclude with some final thoughts from the program. But before we move on, I do want to provide you with a quick definition of what executive education is. It's a form of non-degree seeking professional learning courses designed for working professionals to develop new skills and enhance their current skills, and they're offered in two formats. There's open enrollment for individuals, and then there's custom for organizations. Now let's dive into the key question. How can Pamplin College of Business successfully launch an executive education program that strengthens its reputation, increases revenue, and differentiates itself from its competitors? And that brings us to our recommendation. We recommend that Pamplin start with custom programs, then scale with open enrollment programs. And why that strategy? I'll pass it over to Nina so that she can share the approach that led to this recommendation.
Thank you, Ashley. To answer our key question, we organized our project into 3 phases: analysis, recommendation, and conclusion. During the analysis phase, we conducted a benchmarking dashboard that revealed to us for Pamplin to succeed in this market, they will not only need to respond to current demand, but anticipate future trends and adapt their offerings accordingly. Next, we conducted a segmentation analysis that identified the ideal target audience for Pamplin, which was mid-level and senior leaders. Lastly, our survey had 3 key findings. First was AI and leadership for topics in high demand. Second, flexibility matters when it comes to delivery methods. And lastly, leaders are looking for programs that deliver valuable content at a reasonable price. Next, in our recommendation phase, we conducted a SWOT analysis and a business model canvas to help us understand how Pamplin creates value for its clients. Lastly, in the conclusion phase, the findings from our analysis and recommendations, we translated them into strategic frameworks that we'll discuss later in our presentation. Now I'll pass on to Kay to discuss our analysis summary.
Thank you, Nina. As Nina mentioned, our team conducted 2 SWOT analysis, one of custom program and the other of open enrollment with the help of using the business model canvas. From this, we've learned that custom program require less resources, while open enrollment tend to be more resource intensive. Custom program focuses on the organization, while open enrollment focuses on the individual. With this being said, Pamplin only needs one organizational client to create one focus program. On the other hand, with open enrollment, it requires a higher volume of participants, which would mean more faculty, more marketing resources, as well as a broader array of content will be needed. This is why our team recommends starting with custom programs as the first revenue driver for Pamplin executive education. Because starting with custom programs allows Pamplin to utilize its resources without overextending. This is not an either or decision. We're not saying choose custom over open enrollment. What we are recommending is that Pamplin start with custom program, build a foundation, and then scale using open enrollment to reach a broader audience and diversify their portfolio. Now I'd like you to turn your attention to my colleague Nina, who will introduce the framework our team has developed to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Kay. Our frameworks of custom and open enrollment programs highlights the differences of how Pamplin should create content. For custom programs, the value cycle starts with the client. As the client brings a specific need of Pamplin, from there, Pamplin will work with them to co-create content that is relevant, which maintains and nurtures these clients' relationships, which enhances Pamplin's overall brand reputation. While for open enrollment programs, the value cycle starts with the faculty, as this approach grants more autonomy to faculty, thus increasing buy-in from faculty partners to create content that is of high interest to them, which reduces time to market for programs and helps gauge interest from clients about certain topics. Now I'll pass it off to Sarah to discuss our custom program model in more detail.
Thank you, Nina. With each framework, we wanted to emphasize the different role the Pamplin executive education team would need to play in order to make that format work. For custom programs, the role of the Pamplin executive team will be to consult closely with business clients to understand their context and the challenges they're facing. Then they will need to coordinate with faculty to appropriately scope and tailor content to suit the specific business case. We developed the UPROSM acronym seen here to highlight the most important characteristics of custom programs, like understanding first and shared co-creation. For open enrollment programs, the Pamplin team will need to rely on the bench strength and research prowess of its BT faculty to source ideas for new courses. Then, based on market demand and feedback from participants, programs can be revised and refined over time. We created the Hokies acronym seen here to be used as a screening tool for new content proposals. Hokies emphasizes the most important characteristics of high-quality open enrollment programs, like opportunity demand, knowledge, and skill building. Overall, these frameworks are intended to serve as enduring tools that Pamplin can return to time and time again as they build out their executive education portfolio. They depict the key players and activities involved in executive education and can be used flexibly regardless of which path Pamplin chooses to pursue first. Now, please turn your attention back to my colleague Ashley, who will summarize our final recommendation.
Thank you, Sarah. So our final recommendation and call to action is that Pamplin start with these custom programs, validate them through client partnerships, then scale with open enrollment programs. Now we'll shift our focus to some final thoughts from the program. Overall, we've gained valuable insights, but one of the things we learned is that when you work with an organization like Pamplin to launch a new program or service, you need to ensure that you're adding new value to the organization. You want to improve their processes and improve the execution of those processes, and you want to make sure that you stop doing things that don't add value. And one last thing that we learned from our faculty advisor. In Dr. Carlson's words, you don't know what you don't know. This concludes our presentation today.
So regarding recommendations to start in custom and then scale with open enrollment, what metrics, criteria, benchmark should be met before Pamplin is ready for open enrollment?
That's a good question. I would say there'd be three things that needs to be considered. Market demand. So are there other organizational clients who are interested in custom or executive education at all? Secondly, would be internal capacity. And this can look like faculty capacity, because the amount of faculty will determine how many open enrollment programs Pamplin will be able to offer, as well as how often they'll be able to offer those programs. And lastly, I would say financial readiness. And with this, Pamplin will need a clear pricing model and a clear revenue target to move forward. I think it really comes down to, is there enough demand to cover the cost for faculty, marketing resources, as well as faculty, resources, and staff. So I think those three things will need to be considered before moving forward with open enrollment.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're the Pamplin Graduate Programs Capstone team, and today we're presenting our project on enhancing student experience in graduate education through career outcome analysis and visualization. My name is Andrea Mejia, and following completion of this program, I'll be joining Capital One as a member rotation associate.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Sun, and following the program, I'll be joining Deloitte as a cybersecurity analyst.
Hi, everyone. My name is Horace Khan, and after the program, I will be joining Clark Construction as an engineer.
Hello, everybody.
I'm Bijan Sultani, and following graduation, I'll be working at ZoomInfo as a sales representative. Now, before we begin, we'd like to recognize and say a big thank you to our project sponsors, Jennifer Riley and Luke Williams, as well as our faculty advisors, Professor Slagle and Professor Rains. You guys have helped us immensely throughout the project, and we would not be here today without your guidance. Thank you. Now, I'll pass it to Andrea to get us started with our project introduction.
Thank you, Bijan. Our project seeks to answer this key question. How can Pamplin use student and alumni outcomes to better assess and showcase the value of Pamplin graduate programs? Every year, countless students walk through Pamplin's doors in search of more than just a business degree. They're looking for their return on investment. Pamplin promises them dedicated faculty, strong support services, a rigorous curriculum that will challenge them, and a Hokie alumni network that will pour back into them post-graduation. We understand as a team that this is not just stuff at the undergraduate level, but continues to the graduate level. I will now pass it over to Horace to discuss our findings from our graduate student survey.
Thanks, Andrea. Before we dive into the findings of the survey, our team wanted to give a quick overview of what the survey was and why we conducted it. Our team received a plethora of graduate outcome data from the program directors, but due to FERPA constraints, we couldn't receive the same level of data from everyone. To capture some more Pamplin voices, we decided to create a standardized survey to better understand who our students are, where they come from, and what do their career outcomes actually look like. We sent our survey out to 5 graduate programs and received 113 responses across 3 of them, with the majority being in MSBA-BA and MACES and 2 respondents from MIT. Our survey was organized around 4 core areas: program awareness and decision factors, student satisfaction and support services, career outcomes, and finally, overall program value. Some insights from our survey include that by March, nearly half of our respondents had already secured employment. Additionally, 80% of students believe that their program would benefit their career advancement in the long term. Lastly, 71% of students felt either confident or extremely confident in their employment prospects post-graduation. Ultimately, our goal with the survey was to give Pamplin leadership a clear, student-backed image of where their programs are performing well and where there may be any opportunity to improve. With that being said, I would now like to pass it off to Andrea to begin discussing our graduate outcomes infographic.
Thank you, Horace. For the past 3 years, I've had the pleasure of serving as a Pamplin ambassador. And when prospective families or students walk in, the first question on their mind is, where will my graduate end up post-graduation? We hand out a handy-dandy flyer that details what our employment rate is across all 7 departments at the undergraduate level, as well as who our top employers are and the most common placement locations for our graduates. We have compiled all the data given to us by program directors to create the graduate outcomes infographic here. Across the 3 programs we highlighted, that being MSBA-BA, Online MIT, and MACES, they boast an employment rate of 97% and a median starting salary of $94,500. And the most common employment locations are Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, Florida, New York, with the addition of the District of Columbia. I will now pass it back over to James to discuss our findings from the sector breakdown by program.
Thank you, Andrea. We want to take a step further and see where our Pamplin graduate talent are ending up and where they're building their careers. If I grab your attention to the bottom right bar chart, we see that our Master of Accounting students are landing roles primarily in the private sector, and this can be explained as the majority of them are landing roles within the Big 4. Next, with our MSBA and Masters of Information Technology program, they have a more equal distribution amongst their 3 sectors. And next, I want to highlight everyone a dashboard that we created this year. One of the biggest challenges we faced as a capstone team this year was that we had the program director career outcomes data. It was simply too hard to navigate. Those thousands of rows within Excel, and had prospective student, stakeholder, or our precious deans here came up to us and asked us, where are your graduates landing employment and what salaries are they earning? We want to answer those questions in seconds, featuring our Pamplin graduate career investigator. What this is a heat map of the United States featuring highlighting a geographic concentration focused on employment, meaning the darker the room, the more job employment within that state. And one of the main features that comes with this dashboard is that you're able to see the total jobs within the state, job breakdown per program, as well as the median salary breakdown per program. And with that, I'd like to pass it back to Bijan to begin our peer and aspirant benchmarking.
Thank you, James. We've done the research and we compared ourselves to our competitors. Now here's where Pamplin wins. Starting off with MACES, nearly 90% of students secure employment before graduation, while competitors measure outcomes 3 to 6 months following graduation. Next, we have the MIT program. We're ranked top 10 in the nation. competing against big name private institutions such as Columbia, Rice, and Johns Hopkins. Moving on to our very own MSBA-BA. We have one of the highest employment rates 6 months after graduation, coming in at nearly 98%. And finally, the Flex MBA. Its accelerated format wraps up in just 1.5 years, shorter than most competitors out there. With those advantages in mind, I'd like to pass it back to Andrea to go over our key findings and final thoughts.
Thank you, Bijan. So our project had 3 key takeaways. The first one being that marketing outreach should be expanded past Virginia Tech affiliated campuses. As right now, a large part of our students are coming from Pamplin undergraduate majors or Virginia Tech concentrations here. So we believe that using the career investigator can show our marketing team where to attract more students coming into our academic programs. Secondly, when students are deciding whether or not to pursue a higher education, they want to know what their return on investment will be upfront. So clearly highlighting who our top employers are, our employment rate, and our median starting salary could attract more students who might be looking at competitors and what they advertise on their web pages. And lastly, we believe that we need to allocate more resources for pre and post experience development for our students to get more opportunities post-graduation. And I want to impart with you guys this statement before we close out. What separates Pamplin from our competitors is that Pamplin truly cares. Throughout the last 5 years, program directors have worked tirelessly hard to ensure that over 95% of their graduates are walking out post-graduation with employment. Through their dedicated faculty, rigorous curriculum, and strong support services, our Pamplin students are entering the workforce light years ahead of our competitors. And that's what makes Pamplin so special. I'll now pass it over to Bijan to close out our presentation.
Thank you, Andrea. As a group, we thought the most valuable part of the MSBA program was getting to work with people from all types of backgrounds and unique skill sets. From our very own capstone team to the various project groups we got to work on throughout the year. These different perspectives challenged us to think in new ways and ultimately grow throughout our time in the program. And we even got to make some great friends along the way. So with that being said, thank you for listening to our presentation, and we open the floor to you guys for any questions.
When comparing the Pamplin graduate programs to our peer and aspirant competitors, what are some of the more intangible things that set us apart?
When comparing it, it would honestly be our support services and how our curriculums are operated. We looked at the curriculum, we looked at what our students were earning post-graduation, like 6 months out of it. We also looked at the opportunities that were available to our students. Our capstone experience within the MSBA program is one that sets us apart from other competitors when evaluating Pamplin's value proposition.
So this dashboard can be used obviously to help recruitment in other areas outside of graduate programs, but how do you envision this also being used to help in the recruitment of organizations to hire our graduating students out of these programs?
I can take that. So if you guys don't mind, if I go back to our dashboard, we actually have a rising interest in big tech hubs such as Texas, California, Washington State, and we can definitely look at opportunities with corporations within that, as we have big sponsorships within our MSBA program, such as Leidos and even all their consulting firms. We definitely see interest that we can grab or from these big tech hubs.
That's one. So I know you mentioned the survey of like what 113-ish people, but some of your statistics, I feel like you must have had another data source, right?
Yes.
So where were your other data sources?
So this was based off our survey. How if you would go to the infographic. This was based off over 900 alumni graduates from the years of 2020 to 2025. That was provided to us by program directors from the MSBA-BA program, online MIT program, and MESA's program. Any other takers? Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is James. I'm here with my capstone team to share the work that we've done with Cohort Business Solutions over the past 9 months with our capstone project titled Getting in Front of the Sponsor, or the customer rather. Cohort Business Solutions is a government contractor who creates cyber risk assessments for organizations, particularly in the defense sector of government. We believe that our work will help them to automate this process and make it easier for them to produce these reports. Before we get into that though, I'd like to take some time to introduce myself and the rest of my team.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ben Hollenbeck. I got my undergraduate degree here at Virginia Tech in aerospace engineering, focused on vehicle and system design. After completion of this program, we'll be moving to Denver, Colorado to become a software engineer at Rocket Lab.
Hello, my name is James Martin. I graduated from Virginia Tech with a bachelor's in management last spring. And after this program, I'll be going to Officer Candidate School to join the United States Army Reserves and also work full-time as a program analyst for the Marine Corps. And our other teammate Daniel couldn't be with us today, but you'll see some of his contributions in the presentation.
Hi everyone, my name is Kara Skibbs. I completed my undergraduate degree at Virginia Tech in cybersecurity and management, and I'm currently exploring opportunities and looking for full-time roles that combine both my technical and analytical skills.
Thanks, Karis. Next, we'd like to thank some of the people who made this journey possible. Mr. Micah Mossman, the CEO of Pueo, Mr. Jared Glauner and Chris Garrett, who served as our primary point of contacts throughout this process, Mr. Chris Armstrong, Deputy Chief Mission Executive for Pueo, and from Virginia Tech, Mr. Jay Winkler and Dr. Joe Simpson, who served as our faculty advisors. Next, to kick us off, I'll pass it to Daniel.
Team of analysts writes up risk reports to different stakeholders that require a different level of understanding. And each report takes a lot of manual effort. So analysts turn those findings into recommendations, which is hard to keep up with over time. Now, process design is what we set out to solve. And now I'll pass it on to Karis to talk about executives.
Thanks, Daniel. So when we started this process, we wanted to understand exactly what the analysts were experiencing before diving in to write our code. What we discovered was a workflow under real pressure. When Pueo was receiving these workbooks, they were in inconsistent formats with no reliable structure. Even once they had the data, failed findings still needed to be mapped to internal controls and weighted by risk before meaning anything to a key decision maker. And someone from their team had to sit down and compile all of these findings into one standardized report, all while happening in a classified network where traditional deployment options simply weren't on the table. This is what shaped our build, and I'll pass it over to Ben to go over exactly how we addressed each one.
Thank you, Karis. We'd like to split this year into two parts. We had the fall and the spring. In the first part of the fall, our program lives by a philosophy of not smashing the watermelon. What that meant for our team was, before writing a single line of code, creating the repository, working on anything, we created an NDA shared access with Pueo. From there, we looked at their data, had a development meeting with their team in December, and we wanted to understand what a Pueo analyst does, how their workflow is, what the bottlenecks are, and actually how to create a product and a report generator that works for them and a company. That came part two. That was phases 4 through 6. During these phases, our team iterated on design over and over again until we had it working on 3 different local devices: myself, Daniel, who couldn't be here, Karis, and James. During this process, we want to put ourselves in the shoes of analysts, create a human-in-the-loop process. And late in May, early May, we had a meeting with the Pueo and the CTO, Chris, where we actually developed an idea to do an LLM solution. Part of the LLM solution was working together as a team in a very sprint-like motive. We only had 2 weeks to develop this product, test it, iterate on it, and present it to Pueo. We came through together as a team and did that. Now, to explain the economic analysis of our teamwork and our hard work, I'm going to pass it on to Daniel.
Here's our business case. With $185,000 in annual savings after year 1 sunk cost. And year 2 and following, we keep the $225,000 in raw savings. Looking at the next 5 years, your net present value is just over $871,000. And now I'll pass it on over to James.
Thanks, Daniel. Next, we have some recommendations for Pueo, and we've organized them across 4 different horizons. First, the validation phase. We've given Pueo the product. Now they need to test that it actually works in their classified networks. Because they do deal mainly with classified information, we weren't able to access that, so we had to create synthetic data. Next, an adoption phase. After making sure it works on their systems, they need to make sure that their employees and staff are comfortable operating the tool on their devices. And this will also include creating trainings and other programs. Next, an expansion phase. We believe this tool can be expanded to meet the other report writing needs that Pueo has as a company, and they can also create trend analysis to make sure that's going in the right direction in the future. And finally, a scaling phase. We know that if Pueo can scale this tool to their benefits, that's going to put them on the map and create them as a leader in the intelligence community and the defense sector in report generation. And next, I'll pass it to Karis.
Thanks, James. So these are our 4 main program takeaways. First, we learned how to turn ambiguity into output. We had the opportunity to dive into Pueo's problem and turn it into finished deliverables that will continue making a lasting impact for the company. Next, we worked under strict real-world constraints that allowed us to really evolve our solution to something more disciplined and more thoughtful. Third, we had to learn how to build beyond the technical and learn how to save costs, cut time, and ultimately build something that was meaningful for the company and the people who will be using it. And finally, everyone from our project team came from different backgrounds, which allowed us each to bring a unique perspective to the table, and learning how to value that in each other is what helped make us successful. I'd now like to thank you all for your time today and open the floor to any questions you have.
If you guys could restart your project with the knowledge you have now, what would you guys do different?
I think one thing is, like Ben said, we don't want to smash the watermelon. I think we could have approached this process with a little more patience. Because they do have a lot of classified information, we just had to wait for them to declassify a lot of that to come to our level. And even then, it wasn't something we could really work with because it was going to change in the next 6 months anyway. So I think coming at it with a lot more patience is something that I would do.
Hi, everyone. We are Team X Energy, and we are presenting our experiment in evaluating the reliability of AI in tracking and reporting project progress.
My name is Grant Strickland, and this August, I'll be joining Clark Construction as an engineer.
My name is Ethan Rucco, and this July I will be joining EY as a technology risk staff.
My name is Holly Stewart, and I will be joining KPMG as a structured finance associate.
My name is Vijay Menavanan, and I'm currently looking for opportunities in consulting and analytics.
My name is Farhan Nase, and I'm currently pursuing a consultant role within the Northern Virginia area.
A very special thank you to our X Energy sponsors, Dr. Derek Gaston and Matthew Welsh, as well as our very own Virginia Tech CBA advisor, Jay Winkler, and Virginia Tech faculty advisor, Dr. Onar Shreff. Now, time is X Energy's most important asset, as they are a startup with goals of accelerating their time to market. However, currently employees are spending a significant amount of time just reporting their project status to the project controls team, who then interprets and inputs that information into the system, and then plans and prepares for upcoming milestones, and repeating this process as new status updates come in, resulting in a workflow that is time-intensive, repetitive, and subject to human error. Our opportunity is within X Energy's AI development team's initiative, which is the implementation of a comprehensive AI infrastructure across the organization, starting with the progress reporting workflow, by using communication artifacts such as email chains, Slack channels, and meeting transcripts to provide rich contextual evidence of progress to the AI agent. However, there are concerns that AI can't reliably interpret information from such highly unstructured sources of data, which brings us to our research question, which is how reliably can AI interpret that information, and what combination of artifacts yields the most accurate and consistent results? Now I'll pass it off to Ethan to detail our experimental design.
Thanks, Allie. To begin answering our research question, we designed an experiment that allowed us to assess an agentic model's ability to report progress based on unstructured communication artifacts available. Without access to real X Energy data, we began by building a framework for a synthetic company that mirrored the key functional areas within X Energy. Using this framework, we developed a ground truth progress report for the week of our simulation, which acted as the answer key for our experiment and the contextual mapping for our next step, synthetic artifact production. We used sophisticated AI-directed language alongside personal validation from our team to ensure that the documents we produced made logical sense in relation to the business context and real communication patterns. We ultimately came away with 68 synthetic artifacts spanning the week of our simulation, which were then inputted into Claude Code alongside our experimental instructions. We specifically chose Claude Code because it aligned with X Energy's current internal AI model. Using Claude Code, we then ran 10 trials of each of our 5 test types, which were all communication artifacts inputted at once, no communication artifacts at all, and then individually email chains, meeting transcripts, and Slack channels. After these 50 trials were conducted, we then took the outputted progress reports from Claude Code and compared them back to our ground truth. We then conducted statistical analysis on those results and came away with our conclusions and recommendations, which we provided to X Energy. To provide a little bit more context behind the nature of our experiment, our team used 3 core metrics to track and measure progress within our experiment. And these aligned with X Energy's current practices of progress reporting. These metrics were the PV or planned value, which is the planned scope of work for a goal or task, followed by AV or actual value, which are the actual work hours spent to date on that goal or task. And then finally, the EV or earned value, which is measured by the percentage complete of the goal or task, regardless of how many man hours have actually been dedicated to it. I will now pass it on to VJ, who will detail our statistical analysis and some of our key takeaways.
Thanks, Ethan. So for our statistical analysis, we chose to focus on 4 main metrics: the mean error, which measures the average accuracy; RMSE, which measures volatility and penalizes larger misses in the data; the R squared, which measures pattern alignment; and the F ratio, which measures statistical reliability. We chose these 4 metrics because we wanted to get the most accurate and reliable interpretation of project progress. Now, if you draw your attention to the left, this line chart we created represents our 5 goal level test outputs versus our ground truth, which is represented by the dotted black line at the bottom. Now, moving on to the right, we conducted a box plot analysis across all 3 of our synthetic business teams to see how well the model could interpret project progress differing by team. Now, I'll take you through some of our key takeaways from our analysis. Our first takeaway was that planned and actual value were highly accurate, and that the model predicted 0 error across all 5 of our test types. And this makes sense because the model was given information from structured documents like employee time logs and task trackers. Our second takeaway was that signal dilution was a major issue in our experiment. Signal dilution is essentially the AI phenomena where the model is overloaded with information and it tends to summarize, skim, and cut out information, so it can't truly interpret what's going on in project progress. Our third takeaway was that meeting transcripts most closely aligned with our ground truth, and that they were by far our richest context source as well. And this is because meeting transcripts include discussions, clarifications, decisions, and next steps. And our fourth and final takeaway was that the model had a subjectivity gap across our 3 business teams. And that essentially means that the model had an easier time understanding project progress for certain teams when project progress is more structured versus more ambiguous. Now I'll pass it to Grant to talk about our recommendations and next steps.
Thanks, VJ. For our implementation, we suggested a 3-stage rollout over a conservative 2 years. For stage 1, we recommended a singular planned value and actual value agent. By connecting a team task tracker and building out a company-wide team time log, they would directly be connected to a central max agent, which will automatically update the planned and actual values in the P6. For stage 2, we recommended a polyagentic system for definitive workflows. Think of it as an AI assembly line. You have individual distinct agents for each specific artifact. You have 1 for meeting transcripts, 1 for Slack channels, and 1 for email chains. These individual agents will then feed into a central agent, which will update the earned value in the P6 output. The numbers on the left indicate how much weight should be valued for each specific artifact. Finally, in stage 3, the system has been trained, refined, and monitored with human oversight. This final stage represents our ultimate goal, a robust ambient AI system that can accurately and consistently report earned value. Now I'll pass it off to Farhad to go into our economic analysis.
Thank you, Grant. This project will save us 8,788 hours every year. And using time as a long-term asset, an estimated net present value of 58,586 hours, positively benefiting the project control teams, technical staff, and team managers by saving them time. And now I would like to move on to our program takeaways. This has been truly a rewarding experience, from navigating different personalities and ambitions to the inner workings of such a cool company. We would like to thank the X Energy team, our program staff members, and everyone else for listening, and open up the floor for questions. Thank you.
So you guys built these AI agents and experiments on them. How receptive did the X Energy, the AI adoption team seem to be to actually building these agents and putting them into production?
Yeah, I can take that one.
The AI implementation team at X Energy was already planning on creating something along these lines of an ambient AI system for progress reporting. Our job was kind of to validate that idea and then, come up with some insights on how they should design it from there. So once we gave them our presentation, they're already in the process of now designing and implementing a system like this, using some of the insights and takeaways that we provided to them, so.
Hello, everyone. We are the Valley Star Credit Union Capstone team, and we are very excited to share with you a look into the work that we've been doing to automate Valley Star's audit review process. We'll start off with introductions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roman Ash. I graduated from Virginia Tech last May with a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity management and analytics. I'm still seeking job opportunities in the data analytics field.
My name is Emma Virtue. I graduated last May from Virginia Tech with a degree in professional and technical writing. And in August, I plan to work for Esri as an associate product marketing manager.
Hi, my name is Will Wayland. I recently graduated from Virginia Tech with a degree in operations and supply chain management. I'm seeking job opportunities in supply chain and data analytics.
Hi, I'm Ganesh Acharya. I got my degree in business administration majoring in finance. Currently, I'm a data intern at Valley Star Credit Union and searching job opportunity, full-time opportunity.
We also wanted to take a moment to thank everyone who helped us with this project, but especially these 4 individuals. Jordan Weatherholtz, Shannon Dillon, Emily McCorkle, and Dr. Michelle Charette were all monumental in the progress of our work. We had countless contributors, both from Virginia Tech and Valley Star, and we appreciate everyone who took the time to guide us to success in this project. This is a brief overview of everything we're going to be sharing with you all today, and I'm going to start us off with the introduction. The core problem we aim to solve through this project can be boiled down to this key problem statement. Valley Star's current audit review process is too manual and time-consuming, taking employee time away from other valuable work. Valley Star's mission statement is employees first, members benefit, and the current system requires the employees to manually locate, organize, and validate data, taking their time away from other tasks that could potentially provide more value to the organization and its members. From this problem statement, our main goal for this project was to automate Valley Star's audit review process to reduce the potential for errors and also to improve our strategic drivers, enhancing convenience and overall service quality. I will now pass it on to Will to discuss our solution method.
Thank you, Emma. This slide outlines the overall solution method we used throughout our project. Our process began with data exploration and collection, where we worked to understand Valley Star's current audit reporting process, available data sources, and key business questions. From there, we worked to standardize the data to improve overall consistency and accuracy. This visual shows an example of inconsistent data entry processes due to abbreviations or misspellings, increasing the amount of time employees spent manually validating data. In response, we implemented SQL case logic and transformation processes to standardize existing entries, as well as working alongside the Valley Star team to implement a standardized data entry process for their tellers to improve reporting accuracy moving forward. Because data standardization was so heavily emphasized early in our project, it created a much stronger foundation for data automation later on. Initially, all of our reporting logic was combined into a single store procedure. However, this created aggregation and duplication issues, negatively impacting reporting accuracy. To improve reliability, we separated the reporting logic by use case, giving us multiple data sets, or 3 distinct data sets. From there, our project transitioned into dashboard development and technical documentation, which Roman will discuss next.
Thank you, Will. We will now go into one of the most important aspects of our project, creating the Power BI dashboards. These dashboards went through many stages of edits and revisions to ensure that they looked and felt similar to what was already present within Valley Star's data ecosystem. We created a series of dashboards to cover all areas of the check payment channel system, but specifically to cover 2 key recommendations that the Valley Star team had. The first being quick data extraction, so that way they could actually respond to the audit request quickly. And the second being the mapping of historical trends for future strategy opportunities. Another usability that our capstone team theorized was for anomaly detection. This is an example of a graph that is present within one of our dashboards, and it clearly shows an anomaly. Now with our dashboards, the Valley Star senior leadership team can quickly look at this graph, see that there's an anomaly present, and then decide whether or not to devote man hours to investigating why this anomaly occurred. With that, I'll pass off to Ganesh to discuss our benefits analysis.
Thank you, Roman. Before we delve into the benefits generated from our solution, it's imperative to understand that previously, manual data retrieval system consumed 45.5 hours per week for the data and auditors team. But now we're estimating that our solution will save 23 hours per week. So we're saving 1,104 hours annually for them. Not only that, we're also saving 142 hours annually for the tailors. Therefore, the total hours saved by our solution annually would be 1,246 hours. Now, moving on to the next slide, I'd like to highlight the intangible benefits that our project introduces. First, it increases accuracy and confidence in the system. By automating the manual retrieval system, the data team will be confident with the data they're working with because our solution will mitigate all the errors. Second, we're unlocking capacity. With automation delivering faster and accurate results, they can pivot away from manual data retrieval system and focus more on highly valued analytical tasks that really drives business forward. Finally, all of these directly bids into ValueStar's mission statement of employees first and members benefit. When employees are equipped with efficient and accurate tools, they'll be satisfied, which ultimately results to high returns for the company and better service for the members. Now, to talk about key insights and recommendations, I'd like to pass it on to Emma.
Thank you, Ganesh. Based on our findings and analysis, we have 2 key insights along with recommendations for ValueStar moving forward. First, we observed that manual data entry limited the data integrity, leading us to recommend for ValueStar to automate their data entry processes whenever possible, to reduce inconsistencies that come with human error and improve the overall data quality. Second, we observed that interactive dashboards over static reports drive higher tangible business value, leading us to recommend that ValueStar implement the framework of our project solution across all payment channels. Overall, we believe that our solution embodies ValueStar's mission of employees first, members benefit, by reducing the manual load that is on the employees, improving overall data visibility, and allowing the employees more time to focus on higher value analytical and operational tasks. Now moving on to our key takeaways from the program along with advice for the next cohort. For me, this program and this capstone experience provided real-world practice working with a real company and gave me skills that I know I will bring to the workplace.
My advice to the cohort 11 is to take advantage of the faculty and professors that are here for you. They want you to succeed and they're super friendly.
My advice to the upcoming cohort would be to actively bond with their fellow cohort members as they serve as your lifelong professional connections.
My advice to future cohort members is to use sponsor day and networking events to your advantage, as they can give you a leg up getting the job opportunity or capstone sponsor you're looking for. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our presentation. We'd now like to open the floor to any questions.
How does the new system help you mitigate issues with data standardization?
Yeah, so the new system, we worked alongside the data team to develop a new procedure for the tellers, where rather than inputting the data themselves, they're selecting an option from a drop-down menu, which not only saves them time, but also mitigates risks.
You saved over 1,000 hours for the staff and 142 hours for the tellers annually. What are they going to do with that new time that they've saved?
Thank you for that question, James. I will say thank you for Dr. Carlson on behalf of Dr. Carlson as well. I know he's wanted to ask that of a few teams today. So some of the things that we thought of could be time saved for the tellers is just getting back to doing their job. ValueStar's statement, their main vision is employees first and members benefit. So by putting the employees first in this way, we're getting the tellers to be back doing their normal job, which is customer service, helping out the customers that ValueStar deals with. But also something that can't be measured is the intangible benefits. So we worked a lot with a consultant at ValueStar named Susan Mays to implement the system. And we heard back when we went to present to them that a lot of their tellers have reported how much better the system is and how much they like it. So another aspect of implementing that system is for the quality of life of the employees at ValueStar. All right, thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We are the Virginia Tech Athletics capstone team, and we're super excited to present to you guys about some softball pitching optimization. But first, introduce ourselves.
Hey, I'm Thomas Smith. I did my undergrad here at Virginia Tech as a business IT major with concentration in operations and supply chain management. And then following this program, I'll be exploring opportunities in project management and consulting.
Hi, my name is Peyton Coleman. I also did my undergrad here in business IT operations and supply chain management. And after this program, I'll be going to work for the Air Force as a civilian logistics specialist.
Hi, my name is Ashley Plick. I also completed my undergrad here at Virginia Tech. I majored in business IT, concentrating in cybersecurity. And following this program, I will be a consultant at Axtria and their Boston office.
My name is Jack Mazzina. I also did my undergrad here at Virginia Tech, majoring in finance. And after this program, I'll be joining Capital One as a business analyst.
Hi, I'm Connor Patrick. I also did my undergrad here at Virginia Tech, studying sports media and analytics. And following the completion of this program, I'll be joining Clark Construction Group as an engineer.
So to get started, kind of going into how this project came to be, where it all began, it really starts with the recent successes of the Virginia Tech softball team. They're really good. They're one of Virginia Tech's highest performing athletic programs, and they want that to continue. However, there were some very key roster changes at the end of the 2025 season, where they lost their best pitcher, Emma Lemley, and their best hitter, Corey McMillan, both in the same season due to graduation. However, the team was still very strong. Everything was in place. They didn't want to rebuild. They just wanted to reload. They wanted to optimize their team to get the absolute most out of it, which is where the project starts and where we come in. So I'm going to pass it off to Ashley, who's going to go into our team's problem statement and the scope of our work.
Thank you, Jack. The core problem our project focused on solving is how can Virginia Tech softball optimize its pitching rotation to give up less runs and win more games. This problem statement evolved along with our scope. Our final project scope focused on optimizing pitching lineup across a weekend series based on fatigue. We determined the best way to convey this information to the coaching staff was through a dynamic Excel workbook. This workbook predicts win probability and fatigue over a weekend series against a single opponent, playing games on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The NCAA does not allow technology in the dugout, so this is designed for out-of-game use by the coaches. Now I'll pass it off to Peyton to talk about the objectives of our workbook.
Thanks, Ashley. So the first objective of our workbook was to make sure that it was a user-friendly decision tool. So we want to provide this to the coaching staff and not require them to have any sort of technical Python background. So we did this through a dynamic Excel workbook that required just a few user inputs and gave them clear outputs. Next objective was that the workbook also needed to be reliable. So we did that by training it on 6 seasons worth of past Division I softball data across all teams. Next, the workbook also needed to be repeatable. And so every single week we updated this with the most up-to-date player statistics. Player performance can vary a lot across the season as well as across the player's entire career. So we ensured that they had the most up-to-date information every week as we rebuilt our model. And finally, we wanted to make sure that we're providing the coaches with something unique. So there's so many different scouting tools out there that can provide them with information. So we wanted to ensure that we were providing them with something that was accurate and meaningful that they weren't already gaining from another source. So now Connor will talk about how we trained our model.
Thanks, Peyton. So the first step of training our model was gathering 6,000 plus rows of historical ACC pitching data. From there, we incorporated the Virginia Tech pitcher stats into the model. And as the season progressed, these were more heavily weighted to better reflect the current performance of our pitchers. Then, as new games were played over the course of the year, every single week we retrained our model and then updated our data set. Now I'm going to pass it off to Connor Patrick to get into our workbook.
Thank you, Connor. So now for our tried and true Excel workbook. We'll be looking at the Sunday tab today to see how pitcher fatigue and optimization can be used inside or outside the dugout for the team. So on the left side, we have all of the Virginia Tech pitching staff. And we have the yellow cells where you can input the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday batters faced inside of a series. So we'll jump into an example. Here we have pitcher A. On Friday, she pitched 32 batters faced as well on Saturday. And on Sunday, she's expected to pitch 32 batters faced for an expected ER, which is earned runs, of 3.06. Those 32 batters faced is an estimated full game. So she pitched an entire game on Friday and Saturday and anticipated to do the same on Sunday. Now move over to the right side. We have the expected earned run increase due to fatigue. So that 0.56 is due to that fatigue that she pitched on Friday and Saturday. Had she not pitched either one, that value would be 0. Now moving over again, we have the win probability decrease due to that fatigue. So since she pitched those 2 days consecutively, the win probability for Virginia Tech on Sunday drops by nearly 2% against this opponent. Now I'll pass it over to Ashley to talk about our optimizer.
Thank you, Connor. This is our Sunday optimizer. This optimizer takes over 300 possible pitching lineup combinations, ranks them based on expected runs, and returns the top 25. Here we have the top two ranked scenarios, the first one being pitcher C pitching for 7 innings with 3.2 expected runs, and the second ranked scenario of pitcher C pitching for 5 innings and pitcher A pitching for the other 2 with 3.34 expected runs. This optimizer also automatically updates based on batter space input data. For example, if pitcher or C were to pitch more on Friday or Saturday, this optimizer would automatically update these rankings and would push scenarios involving pitcher C further down in the ranks. I'll pass it off to Connor to talk about our ACC work.
Thanks, Ashley. So this is the tournament version of the workbook that we used for the ACC tournament and then later adapted it for regionals. The biggest issue we were facing was the uncertainty of tournament play, where in a normal weekend series, you play the same team 3 days in a row. For a tournament, you can play an entirely different team every single day. In order to address this, we included a drop-down menu where the coaching staff would simply just select a team they wanted to look at, and then that choice would flow throughout the entire workbook. For example, let's look at UVA. With UVA selected, you can see their projections there, and then if you switch that to Pitt, it automatically updates, making it really easy for the coaching staff. Now let's look at the tournament optimizer. So this is very similar to the Sunday optimizer that Ashley just showed, except it helps the staff map out pitching usage across an entire tournament. Now I'll pass it off to Connor Patrick to talk about how the model was used.
Thank you, Connor. Excuse me. So our mean absolute error per prediction was 1.17 runs, which is exceptional in sports where the variable outcomes in the game. The team also performed exceptionally well, reaching their first conference championship game since 2012. So really nice that we were able to help them achieve those goals. Within 1 run, we were set out with the goal of being within 50%, and within 2 runs, we wanted to be within 75% of predictions. We exceeded both those scenarios, being at 51.2 and 85.4. So really good stuff by us in the classroom and also the team on the field. Now I'll pass over to Peyton to close us out.
Thanks, Connor. So our team found this capstone project to be the most meaningful part of our MSBA experience. So it really helped us to grow and bond as a team, as well as with the rest of our cohort. So we would like to pass that along to cohort 11 to truly embrace this capstone project and use it to gain that real world consulting experience. So with that being said, we would love to thank the people who made this project possible. We have Scott, Nick, and Anae from the VT Athletics Analytics team, Megan, who has worked with softball coaching and support staff, Jay Winkler, who is our MSBA advisor, and Dr. Fraticelli, who is our faculty advisor. So thank you all, and now we'd like to open up for any questions.
You guys think VT softball could use this to help identify what players to go after in the transfer portal?
I think yes, because each of these individuals in our system have their own fatigue coefficients and how well they perform. So if you get that into a database or an Excel sheet where you can filter through who has the best fatigue or who's able to pitch at the lowest earned runs expected, then I think it would be a usable thing inside the portal.
Kind of build off Sean's question. So you have this model to target the ACC tournament. How easy would it be to add in other schools, start them for the regional and national level?
We did train off of only ACC data. For softball, for the most part, the most competitive teams are ACC and SEC. There's out of those conferences, there's not as much. We did adapt it to two regionals where we're playing obviously non-ACC teams, and it still did perform pretty well. So that could be something to look into for a future workbook.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're the MSBA Business Analytics team partnering with the Virginia Tech National Security Institute this academic year. Thank you all for being here with us today. We're excited to present a practical plan for how VTNSI can better capture and communicate researcher stories.
Blame it on the old guy.
All right, try now.
My name is Malika. I have a master's in computer engineering. After graduation, I will be working as a accountant.
My name is Tristan Floyd. I received my Bachelor of Science in Marketing Management from Virginia Tech, and post-graduation, I'll be continuing as a Marketing Communications Specialist for VTNSI.
My name is Ben Reynolds. I have my bachelor's degree in economics, and post-graduation, I'll be moving to Charlotte, North Carolina to work at a tech staffing agency.
Hey, my name is Joy James. I earned my Bachelor's of Science in Business Information Technology with a concentration in Cybersecurity Management and Analytics. Upon graduation, I'll be working with BetterX based in Northern Virginia.
Before we get started with the content of today's presentation, we'd first of all like to extend our deepest thanks to this year's sponsors who enable this incredibly valuable learning experience for us. Couldn't be with us in the audience today, but they are online. So we'd like to extend our thanks to Dr. Caliasa, Isabella Rossi, and Esther Wang.
We would also like to recognize our faculty advisors for this project. We would like to say a special thank you to our faculty sponsor, Mr. Jim Winkler, and our faculty advisor, Mr. Steve Matuzak, for everything they have done. Without them, this project would not have been the same. Now let's pass on to Tristan to talk about today's agenda.
Thank you, Julie. So we'll start our presentation today with our project overview and problem statement to ground us all in the scope of our work throughout this year. Then on to our final recommendations, the implementation of these recommendations, a snapshot of one of our team project deliverables, and ending off with the value that our team acquired from this project. Now I'm going to pass it to Romina to kick us off with our project overview.
Our capstone project focuses on helping VTNSI communicate the impact of their work more strategically to external audience. VTNSI does in fact research and has strong partnerships, but their work may not always be easy for people outside the institute to understand. So our goal is to make it easier for the VTNSI them to organize and identify. Moving on to the problem statement and scope. The main goal we found is that VTNSI does impactful work, but there isn't a consistent process for capturing the stories and turning them into clear communications. So our scope is to develop a repeatable framework for capturing the stories and turning them into clear communication while helping VTNSI organize and share high-value stories to key audiences while making it easier for both the researchers and the communications team. Now I'll pass it to Tristan to talk about it better.
Thank you, Romina. So one of the first things that VTNSI challenged our team to think about is what does a better VTNSI looks like? And as our team considered this, we realized that better doesn't work at just a single point. It works as a cycle that reinforces how VTNSI improves as an organization as a whole and how those improvements are communicated. So you can't communicate around work that isn't improving because that wouldn't reflect the reality of the organization. But it's important that those improvements are communicated so sponsors can resonate with the value of VTNSI's work. So better works as a cycle. VTNSI advances their research, workforce, and partnerships. Those advancements are then communicated in a clear and strategic manner. Sponsors then respond with more trust and multi-year commitments, giving VTNSI the resources they need to improve on both new and current sponsor relationships. And this cycle served as the foundation for our final recommendations today.
So moving on from here, we bring to you our recommendation for VTNSI, which is the story card form. Story card form is a selection of carefully curated questions which allow the researcher to uncover the value of the important work they're doing, relay it to the communications champion, who can then repurpose this input into polished, sponsor-facing public materials. We see the story cards as helping VTNSI in a fourfold manner, which I'm going to walk you through now. The first way in which the story card helps VTNSI is that it provides a consistent format for stories to be told. One thing that became abundantly clear in our consultation was that there's no shortage of great work happening at VTNSI. But with that being said, this work is not always making it in front of the communications champion, or if it does, it's happening in a fragmented manner. The story card format ensures that the template in which the communications champions are receiving these stories is standardized. Moving on from there, it also helps to reduce friction between the communications champion and the researcher. One thing which also became clear to us is that they're very busy individuals on both ends, and they're working on a multitude of different projects at any given time. So finding 15 to 20 minutes to jump on a Zoom call or a Teams meeting can be really difficult and take days or weeks on end. Our aim with the story card was to make it asynchronous, and in our prototyping, it's taken around 15 to 20 minutes to complete on the researcher end. So they can complete this asynchronously, and then the communications champion can review it asynchronously. So we cut out the friction that they're currently experiencing. Moving on from there, the story card also helps with prioritization of key stories. There's lots going on at VTNSI, as I've already alluded to. So the communications champion needed to see quickly which kind of stories could be put out there in the public eye, or which ones should be kept between the PI and the researcher as well. As we mentioned, they're dealing with all proprietary data and data that shouldn't be out there in the public eye because it will expose the US to enemies of the state. So that this helps them to quickly prioritize which stories should be in the public eye and which ones should be kept private. Finally, the story card format also helps VTNSI with scale. Scale is really just a function of a consistent format, reduced friction, and prioritization. With these three key tenets in place, VTNSI has a clear roadmap to scale the strategic communications function. Now we'll be moving on to talk a little bit about how the story card format works in practice. One thing which became clear when we spoke with the researchers is that research is iterative, but the scope can change very quickly. We needed to capture the value of what they were doing, but we couldn't do it in a soup to nuts fashion right up front because the scope of the work can change very quickly. But with that being said, we did have to group it into broad categories. So we did settle on a kickoff, midpoint, and endpoint, which all had different lines of questioning. At the beginning, we're just looking to take a 10,000-foot overview. So we're asking the researcher, what is the official title of the project? And who is the primary audience? And what should they take away? This primes the communications champion as to what kind of audience this should be put in front of. As we move on to the midpoint, we're tightening our line of question just a little bit. Here, we're asking them what's changed or evolved about the project to reflect those changes in scope. And then we're also asking them how has the sponsor or external partner benefited so far, just to illustrate that VTNSI is open to working with other partners in the future. As we move on to the endpoint, here we tighten the line of questioning even further. And we're really trying to get to the essence of the value that they're providing for their sponsor. So that's why we're asking very specific questions, such as how did this project meet its original goals or mission need? And this is one I really like at the end, which is what follow-on work, next steps, or future opportunities on the horizon. We believe that this will signal to potential sponsors that VTNSI is a well-oiled machine that they can just plug into and get great results for their organization. With that being said, we tried to capture as much value as we could through the story card, but they're just inputs. We need a great communications champion to take them, repurpose them, and turn into those polished sponsor-facing outputs. So now I'm going to pass off to Julie to talk a little bit about how they do that.
Thank you, Dan. Moving on to the story card generation cycle, on the communication side, their job is about turning the raw input into a clear and compelling story. The key point here is that the story card framework doesn't replace communications, it strengthens it. It sets a strong foundation, but it's still up to the communications team to refine the story so it truly resonates with the audience. Now let's look at the process. First, the communications team will review the inputs submitted by the researchers and ask any follow-up questions that they may have. The purpose of doing so is to close any potential gaps and to answer questions from an audience standpoint. Then they will select an audience that they would like to target and shape the story based on the audience that they have selected. After shaping the story based on the audience, they will then determine the correct timing and channels to send these stories out. Now let's look at an actual story we drafted during our test run. One of the VTNSI researchers that the team worked with was Lizelle. Lizelle emphasized the importance of connecting VTNSI research with current events. She explained the purpose of doing so isn't to serve as a news outlet, but instead to show people the connection between VTNSI research and what is happening around us. One example story that she mentioned was the Artemis II heat shield issue. She explained that NASA is still investigating in this issue, and her research in hypersonic wind tunnel directly addresses this issue. This shows the connection between VTNSI research and current events. Since the audience for the story is more professional, LinkedIn was selected as a story phone. We were able to test run this process within the past few months, and we wanted to show that this framework that we're proposing is not just a theory, but a feasible process that can be implemented in the near future. With this framework in place, it will create a consistent and effective way for VTNSI to communicate their success stories to their external audiences. Now let's pass on to Tristan to talk about the value of this project.
Thank you, Julie. So overall, our team acquired a lot of value from this project throughout the year. For starters, we strengthened our team collaboration by working across diverse academic backgrounds and learning how our unique skills complement one another. Then from there, we gained exposure to the national security landscape by learning how this project and our work contribute to the overall mission of VTNSI. And finally, we garnered a number of professional development skills, including communication, problem solving, and learning how to manage key holder expectations.
And with that, that brings us to the end of our presentation. We'd just like to extend our thanks to everyone who came here today and for your attention throughout the presentation. Hopefully, we've been able to illustrate to you the depth of the work that we've been doing and also how excited we are about what these story cards can help VTNSI to do as an institution. So once again, thank you, everyone, and we'd like to open the floor for questions.
Were there challenges when writing your first draft stories?
That's a great question. I think as a team, the most challenging part is figuring out how to take stories that are 2, 3, 4, 5 pages long and narrowing them down into a format that can be external facing. So I think the longest form of a story we wrote was a BT News article, but other versions were like the LinkedIn post we displayed here and a social post, so much shorter versions. So figuring out how to narrow down those page-long stories into those smaller versions was pretty challenging.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we present our capstone project for the College of Veterinary Medicine. Before we get started today, we would like to each introduce ourselves first.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jada Braxton, and I received 2 bachelor's degrees here at Virginia Tech in 2023, one in music performance, flute concentration, and the other in French. And after this program concludes, I plan on working and living in Richmond, Virginia as a data analyst and consultant. I also plan on continuing flute lessons in the Richmond area, and I also plan on continuing to work as a search engine quality rater for We Localize.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley. So I also got my undergraduates here at Virginia Tech, one in business information technology and the other in cybersecurity management and analytics. And after this program concludes, I'll be working in DC as a cybersecurity consultant.
I'm Brendan Myers. I also received my undergraduate degree here at Virginia Tech in sports media and analytics. And after completing this program, I intend on finding a job in sports media.
I'm Justin Owusu. I got my undergraduate degree in management consulting and analytics here at Virginia Tech. I'm currently looking for job opportunities in data analysis and consulting.
We'd also like to take time to thank our sponsor and advisors who helped us complete this project this year. They are Travis Burns, Shannon Dillon, and Laura Rashke. We would like to thank you all again. Getting into our agenda, we're first going to introduce our project, define our problem and objectives, and explain our data collection process. Then we're going to share our survey results and present our recommendations. Finally, we're going to finish with the impact analysis and MSBA comments. Getting to our problem, the commons area at the Virginia Maryland Regional College of Veterinary Medicine is currently underutilized. There has been low engagement from both students and staff due to the current vendor not generating enough traffic. This has caused gaps in accessible food options. Our team was asked to evaluate the situation and provide a recommendation that will increase usage, increase community engagement, and give better dining options. Our key question is, how can we increase the utilization of the commons area? To answer this, we focused on improving food options. To do this, we focused on contacting potential vendors, also looking at alternatives such as vending and micro markets, and proposing those new vendors. Our goal is to provide a recommendation that will, 1, increase usage of the commons area, and 2, meet the dining needs of the vet med community. Now that we have outlined our objectives, Ashley will give us a look at how we collected our data.
Thanks, Brendan. To kick off our project, we each went into the commons area for 1 hour to count the number of people that were there. From this, we got an average of 132 people in the commons area and 10 customers at Space Rabbit. But one item that I would like to highlight is that the highest headcount at 161 was done during the time that Space Rabbit was closed. To gain further insights, we decided to create 3 separate surveys that focused on the overall opinion of Space Rabbit. We got the highest number of responses from our students and faculty, so we did focus more of our data analytics efforts on our students and faculty. And here are some of the key insights that we gained from these initial surveys. First, both students and faculty strongly agreed that having a food vendor is important to them. However, when asked whether or not they thought Space Rabbit should continue to be the vendor, opinions were very divided. When asked about areas of improvement, the top reasons that were listed by both students and faculty included of more affordable pricing, expanded food options, and longer operating hours. Other wants that are identified from both students and faculty included self-ordering, grab and go, and having both food and drink options available to them. And now I pass off to Justin to talk about what we did next.
Thank you, Ashley. Given our data insights, the team decided to search for food vendors that could potentially replace Space Rabbit. After contacting many different chain and local restaurants, the team narrowed the list down to those that expressed continued interest in the commons area space. For food and drink vendors, we have Subway, Jonesy Kitchen, Coffee Lab, and Coffeeholics. For vending machine companies, we have Canteen, Delimatic, and Farmers Brew. After narrowing down the list, the team sent out a second set of surveys to students and faculty to learn of which food vendors they would want the most. And as you can see across both the student and faculty surveys, Coffeeholics and Jonesy Kitchen were ranked as the top 2 choices. I'll now hand it to Jada to talk more about the key insights of the surveys.
Thank you, Justin. In our second surveys, we also asked our respondents would they like to buy prepaid meals from vending machines. And a key insight to note is over 50% of those respondents said yes. Getting into our recommendations, our team, with our data-driven insights, our team recommends to replace space rabbit with Coffeeholics and to pair it with Canteen's vending machine services for 24/7 dining services. This is a really important recommendation because it really aligns with all the respondents and what they want. They want fast, affordable, and a variety of options, and these two will provide those. And now I pass it off to Justin to talk more about our primary vendors, Coffeeholics and Canteen.
Thank you, Jada. Here's some information on Coffeeholics, the primary food vendor that we recommend replacing space revenue with. Coffeeholics is a coffee shop in downtown Blacksburg with 5 student truck. Coffeeholics was founded by Virginia Tech graduates and has a strong connection to campus culture. Coffeeholics was voted best coffee by Collegiate Times and offers drinks as well as hot food options. The main con of Coffeeholics is that beyond breakfast items, the menu doesn't have much variety, meaning that there are limited lunch and dinner time options. To provide more variety as well as a 24-hour convenience option, we recommend pairing Coffeeholics with Canteen. Canteen is a vending machine company that already has machines at the vet school, and Canteen could implement their unique vending programs such as Meals Made in Minutes, Fresh and Ready Foods, Canteen Cuisines Dining, Canteen Sequels. I'll now hand it back to Jada to talk about the impact analysis.
Thank you, Justin. Another key insight our team wanted to note is that the vet med school is not financially impacted by the vendors in the commons area. Instead, our main focus is to cultivate a higher sense of community within the vet med school. And with using Coffeeholics as a viable vendor, along with pairing with Canteen's 24/7 dining services, students, faculty, staff, clients, and any visitors who stay throughout the late hours can also have a greater experience when they have more options, a more variety of options during the later hours. Some potential revenue generating benefits from this could include the veterinary clubs, and they could sell merchandise at this vendor. They could also promote their club, which would result in higher membership and increased communities within the vet med school. And as a capstone team, we like to leave you guys with some key takeaways. We truly value leaning on each other as a capstone team, and we truly believe that leaning on your capstone team members, not only just for your capstone, but also for homework assignments and hanging out, is a great way to bond and also foster, higher sense of community. And more advice for cohort 11, and also one of the biggest impact is, I feel like we truly all understand, is the amount of this 9 months capstone project has provided for all of us, and it could lead to real world differences, and you could see those differences in the future or as soon as today, which is very important for our team. And at this time, this is the end of our presentation. It was a long one. It was all of our capstone teams, and I'm glad you guys stuck with us to the end. I'd like to thank everyone who came online and also visited us in person. And we also like to thank again our sponsor and our MSBA faculty and our advisors for everything that they've done with us for this project. Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why did your team recommend Coffeeholics over other vendors?
Yes, so Coffeeholics, within our survey, the students, faculty, staff, and the few clients that also answered it, they really wanted fast, affordable, and better options and a variety of options, and Coffeeholics provided that as well. And they were also very flexible into even changing their menu. And personally for me, I visited Coffeeholics a lot through like last semester and this semester. And my favorite thing on the menu is a iced chai with a banana Nutella muffin, and it's very good. Also, when I went in there this past week, they also were voted 2025 best breakfast as well as 2025 best coffee. So that just really kind of increased my confidence in them as a vendor that will provide the variety of options with food and coffee, which students and faculty and staff really wanted at the vet school.
All right, thank you so much for your time and your attention today. I'm Jennifer Riley. I'm the director of our Office of Graduate and Executive Education, but I've also had the honor of working with you all, cohort 10, over the last. Somebody
I think
else.
you're okay.
Yeah, I'm on. What I do want to say before I hand it off to Sean, my co-faculty member and cohort 9 graduate, is that it's been an absolute honor to work with you this year. One of the things that I've noticed over the years with working with capstone teams is not only in your pictures, seeing how much you've grown, but as people and as communicators and as professionals. I'm excited to call you a future colleague, and I hope you understand that we are always here for you. 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, 20 years down the road, we hope that you'll utilize us as a resource as you grow in your careers. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, come back to Virginia Tech, do executive education experience. But I just have thoroughly enjoyed my time with you, from trips to Buc-ee's all the way to and from DC to sliding on the ice in Maryland to just the intensity of the capstone practice, which is intense for all of us. I appreciate your time, your attention, your professionalism, your energy, and your enthusiasm for your work for your clients. And I especially appreciate your service to each other and to the companies that you're going to serve in the future. Sean?
Well, I don't know that I could say it any better than Jennifer, and that is for you all that have had me in the capstone class in the spring. That's pretty accurate, right? It was like every class. She says it well. I have also had the honor to teach undergraduates in my time here at Virginia Tech, and I've had 23 years of experience to bring both of those undergraduates into these wonderful future leaders that I got to work with. One of the things I always tell the undergraduates is you got to get used to meetings, right? For my professional friends out here, we know that there's a saying, right? This could have been an email, right? I'm not a huge fan of that saying. In fact, I like to say this email probably should have been a meeting. And that's something that you all practiced and learned. It kind of sums up, but you practiced and learned from us. I'm an emotional guy. I have gotten to know you all. I'm very proud of you, incredibly proud of you. At times I've been hard on you, especially recently, but I am very proud of you. I would happily, as Jennifer said, call you a colleague. I do call you a colleague. Now go out there, live Duke Prosum. You are a Hokie. You will always be a Hokie, and you will always be family. Thank you.
Without further ado, I would like to invite cohort 10 to come up and line up. Yeah, over here. All right. Our executive director, Jay Winkler, is going to call your name, and then you walk across, and you can go back to your seat.
Alrighty, Ganesh Acharya. We'll save all of our applause to the end because 72 times would be a little exhausting. It will hurt, guys. Trust me. Mickey Adepris. Andrea Amihir. Roman Ash. Joshua Bay. Thomas Beasley. Griffin Boziak. Iman Bukhari. Jada Braxton. Kitty Brown. Kelsey Burkett. That goes nicely in the small room. Nicholas Caggiano. Kate Chittenden. Peyton Coleman. Ashley Cox. Nolan Crumley. You can see we're very front loaded on the alphabet here. Nicholas Cullifer. Andrew DeRosa. Hannah Deck. Philip DeHaven. Mena Fami. Kristen Floyd. Harris Gibbs. Ben Hollenbeck. Romina Hota. That's a Hunt. Nina Huynh. Aiden Call. Aaron Kelleher. Horace Khan.
Idiot.
Austin Knapp. Kathleen Lay. Malcolm McDonald. Ryan McMichael. Vijay Manavanan. Maeve Marley. James Martin. Ben Motolero. Brendan Myers. Farhad Naseh. Justin Owusu. Anathi Panchagnala. Esther Park. Connor Patrick. Braden Peacock. Anna Pitts. Ashley Flick. Ty Quackenbush. Sarah Reed. Ben Reynolds. Carter Robinson. Ethan Rucco. Divya Salur. Connor Smith. Savannah Smith. Bijan Sultani. Holly Stewart. Grant Strickland. James Sun. Moni Serapineni. Sunita Serapineni. Sean Sweeney. Julie Tang. Michelle Tran. Ashlyn Turner. Now we're getting into my people at the end of the alphabet here. Pratika Venkatesh. Jack Bazina. Emma Virtue. Emily Watkinson. Will Whalen. And Ashley Zoe. We got to bring up. Okay, we got a couple of technical changes to make here. So a couple more tricks up our sleeve. So if we can bring up Ben's present, we want to do Ben's presentation first.
Okay.
I mean, there's the punchline. So just wait.
Might need Ben.
Hey, Ben, can you pop on down here? Anybody know any jokes? Good jokes?
So maybe it's. So.
While we're working on that, I hope I don't miss anybody.
Unresponsive.
Remember that we gave on of the graduate. But also we need to present an example here to our team, faculty and supporters along the way. Next year of the program here. Now I have music. Sleep.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was gonna do that. That's
Yeah,
we slide here. We slide. Yeah. Yeah, and then you just pick the screen. Yeah. Okay, and then you can navigate back to Anna, so if you click on Anna. And then click, and then when we're ready, we'll click present. Okay.
There we go.
Should be auto playing. I found it the other day. Oh my goodness. Okay. We're gonna go from the top. We didn't autoplay the first time round. So can you click that drop down there? Click it again. Autoplay.
Did I hit autoplay?
If it's just play this one.
Okay.
Yep. Enjoy.
Big thanks to Ben for creating.
Okay. For those that have been here before, I'm gonna change up the order slightly. I'm gonna give a few closing remarks. And then we got one little more trick up our sleeve here for today, okay? So, first and foremost, what a fantastic set of presentations. So congratulations, Cohort. I'd like to thank everybody else for coming today on person, online. Also thanks to the team of folks you see here for making today happen. Shannon. Who is always 3 steps ahead, okay? So the sooner you realize that, just the better off you'll be. I think Sean said it, sort of, we're here for you next week, next month, next year. Told a story to a few people recently that I just met with a cohort 3 student who was looking to do a change. So she got a hold of me, we sat down for an hour and talked. So that is always open to all of you as well. Let's just go into the video. That'll be easier. You might be wondering why we asked for picture. Here you go. They're like, whoa. You didn't like, what did I really send in for that? Yeah. Yes, thank you. Nice.